I am live today. I don't know how long I'm gonna be live, just for a little bit, y'all. But I'm gonna be live. Hello, Andre. Cam up. I put the link in the chat so y'all can cam up because I want to talk about if y'all was on Daryl's channel, I want to continue that conversation. But I also want to talk about the opposite of cancel culture. Like, let's create some stuff. Cause I'm so tired of us canceling every damn body every time. But we're not even really telling people what they need to do to keep the legacy going, to keep our generations informed. We need to like give some constructive feedback. So let's continue the conversation. But I'm all about solutions. So I want y'all to be like, hey, this is what we need to do. Like this as a culture, we need to be doing these things. And this is what how we should be directing our kids. And this is what we should be doing. Let's do the opposite of what these other channels do. All they do is pick apart everything that we do wrong every time. Women are too fat. Women are unagreeable. Women are this, women are that. They don't ever give you reference of what they want except some Eastern culture ideology that they want to connect to us um, that really don't apply, that really is unrealistic. So we need to shape this whole idea of what it means to be Black in America. What's our cultural references? We need to at least tell people what they should be doing because I don't think people understand. I feel like people are like lost. They just know what y'all don't like. They just know what people don't want. Um, so cam up, because I want to. And if this dang on spam do not get out of our chat, block this user. This man, he follow every damn chat, spamming everybody. Yeah, Eastern ideologies just don't, first of all, we're not rooted in religion like most Eastern cultures. So, how are we? I mean, what exactly are we going to adapt from those cultures that we can bring here that we believe should be part of our culture and community? I think be realistic if you want us to really be like these women in these other cultures. Tell us what things you appreciate that we can then transcribe, I guess, or bring over to American culture or Black American culture. Um, but yeah, y'all, we need to talk about this because I'm kind of tired of it. I'm tired of all the bickering. Can we like really have solutions? Talk about what we can do, how we can do it better. What's the representation of a Black woman? What's the representation of a Black man? How can we raise our children? How can we ingrain all these things in our culture? I just think that if we don't create culture, all we doing is canceling. That's all we doing. The manosphere, they canceling culture. They really are just making a divide between, and really it's sensationalized because y'all know it's Black men who love us. They love Black women. They not on YouTube arguing with the manosphere people. They're not. They're in real life. They love us. They support us. They have our back. Like you have to drag those type of men to YouTube spaces because they really just don't have time and energy to be arguing with like men like that because they just see those men as irrelevant. But it's really taking over mindsets. It's really a dangerous lane. So we really need to understand that we can't cancel everything. We gotta create. they're making money off of canceling this entire culture, canceling, dividing us, telling men that there's other women that are better for them, telling men that Black women are not good enough, telling men that we are refusing to change, telling men that we don't want to cooperate, um, just giving a wrong message about Black women, and we are constantly reinforcing this message. If you just look down our timeline, everybody is reinforcing these messages and everything that's being said by the manosphere. It's really a lot of it's not really a lot of people who are, kind of just blatantly going against what the manosphere is saying and what these people are saying. Just like Daryl was talking about the fresh and fit. Block these folks. Block these spam, y'all. Come on now. This spam is like, it's so many of these people. They just coming on over here. I want Daryl to come back. He says he's gonna come back over here. I want him to come and talk about some of the things that he left off. Hey, Nikki. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I just wanted to talk about creating culture as opposed to canceling culture, because I feel like we spend enough time canceling culture or talking about things that's wrong within our community. But we don't spend enough time talking about things that we can do differently, things that we need to improve. Like, okay, this is how we want culture to be represented moving forward. This is something that's ingrained, the history, some of those things. Like we don't talk about that enough. So if I was on these YouTube streets, I'd probably be like, Black people don't have no type of point of reference. That's what I would think. It's either you're going to go with Eurocentric views and you're just going to go with that culture, Americanized culture, or you're going to like have a place of reference, something that we can ourselves. Sorry, that's my vitamins. I'm supposed to be taking my vitamins right now. Yes, we cooperate, we're loving, we're kind. We do. We don't put those messages out enough because they put us in spaces where we have to challenge them. And so only the aggressive side come out. And then people will be like, see, look, she aggressive. Like, well, first of all, you put me in a space where I have to constantly defend against something. So now you're wanting to misrepresent me and paint me like I'm something that I'm not. No, we absolutely are not angry, aggressive, just combative for no reason. It's just really a misrepresentation of Black women. And people actually notice that when I'm in my own space, people be like, you're totally different in certain spaces than you are in others. Like, if you can see, I adjust to the environment. When somebody is respectful and kind to me and we can have an open conversation, even if they disagree with me, I'm the same. But if you come to me with some sort of aggression, I'm going to come right back at you. That has nothing to do with me being masculine. That has everything to do with me more so just wanting to make sure you know not to fuck with me. That's it. Shut up, Mr. Rucker. You talk. People need more financial literacy. Prenup. Oh, Mr. Rucker. Come on. You cam up, Mr. Rucker. I'd love to hear what you got to say. Actually, I do think we need more financial literacy. Do you know something about other things besides prenups, though? Like, I think we definitely need financial literacy. When we are debating, we are aggressive, but we can flip that switch too. Exactly. Of course, when we're debating, we are in a YouTube space. And so I need to explain this too. Women in YouTube space, this is a male dominated space. Women are kind of breaking into this domination, but a lot of women are not in this realm of debating, talking about the manosphere, like a lot of women are not in this particular space. If you notice, a lot of women are in like entertainment and all these other spaces. Come on, Daryl, come on live. so we can talk about everything. But a lot of women are in other spaces on YouTube. And so the women who are in these spaces, we have to debate. We have to constantly talk about these issues that are controversial, and they affect our community. So yeah, people call us aggressive, but we should be able to speak just like anybody else on the panel, whether it's male or female. We shouldn't be asked to be silent because we're a woman. We can't speak when men are speaking. That's seen as aggressive. And people are mislabeling us, calling us masculine, but we're in a space where all of our voices are equal. It has nothing to do with your gender. And I don't think people understand that in this space. You put me on the platform because you also want a woman's perspective. So give me the same level of courtesy, respect when I'm on this platform. That's how I feel. And so I don't let nobody put that, oh, I'm a man, you better be quiet on me. Like, no, we not going there. Not in this, like I'm not about to let that slide. Well, nobody took away, he said, who took away our voices? Nobody took away our voices. But what happens is when you're in certain spaces, not just the people on the panel, but sometimes the audience will mislabel you and call you masculine, overly criticize you. And if you do try to have a rebuttal, just call you difficult and try to push those stereotypes that people know about Black women and such. They try to push that on you when you're in these panels. And I guess women want you to act a certain way, or people want you to act a certain way when you're in these spaces. And I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like we're in this space. Give us the opportunity to say our side, and we should be able to express ourselves without people being too critical of what we're saying. We all in the space to give our opinions. Why is my opinion less valuable than the next person's opinion? So it just seems like sometimes that men don't want to hear what women got to say in these spaces. And women got to fight a little harder to get her point across. That's just how, right. And because I'm a Black woman, it's like, oh, you too aggressive. You're too aggressive. Like, I know I'm not no more aggressive than any other person in a debate space. All we are all trying to do is convey our message. That's all we're trying to do. Females need to stop listening to others' depicted thoughts of you and understand the power within and know how powerful you are. All right. You come on through. You came up because I know you got some stuff to say. I mean, listen, we want to work with men. We want to understand. Black women want to date Black men. We do. We want to be with Black men. We love Black men. And I think it often gets portrayed as if we don't. But that's not true. We do. What the problem is that we are not on the same page for a variety of different reasons. Obviously, some things are ingrained in our culture. Some things are meant to divide us. And some of us are not aware of those things because they are institutionalized, obviously. How do we create a culture? Those of us that are self-aware, what do we do? Like, how do we move forward? How do we create culture? How do we, get to a place where we can agree on this is how we want to be represented, and this is the truth about Black people and Black culture? Because we do highlight the bad people. We highlight the people that are doing terrible in our communities all the time. It's like, okay, why do we have to highlight that? I don't understand this. Yes. Are you at work? My reaction, I think you at work. You tell me if you at work. 100 watts, come on. I want you to come on, 100 watts. Kim, y'all cam up. Or y'all don't have to cam up, I guess. As long as, you know, don't be paying no inappropriate stuff in the background. Kim said, exactly, Juana. I'm tired of some men saying it's spicy and cute when it's another race of women. You're right. Like, exactly. And no shade to any other women because it's not their fault. But I basically called that out. I was like, but she just cursed, like cursed out somebody. And y'all did not call her aggressive. But these other two ladies didn't even say one curse word, not even one. And now you're saying that they being combative and aggressive. I'm like, am I watching? Is this like a Twilight Zone? Just in my face, you can see the difference between how Black women are portrayed, who are vocal, who are honest, who just trying to, you know, give their opinion about something, as opposed to other races. Other races are automatically seen as softer, as lighter, even when they're being just as aggressive. I just don't get it. YouTube streets, welcome. Come on over. Come on over, and you can cam up. You can cam up. I would love to hear what you have to say about this, even some final thoughts from Daryl's channel, because that's really why I started this, because I really just loved how that conversation was going on Daryl's channel. People were just being super authentic. People were just being really open. And I just was like, look, Black culture, we need to stop canceling people and we need to start creating stuff, because obviously we're at this standstill where people don't even know what, like, people are rooted in all types of different mindsets now. They got the manosphere, they got all these other places. I mean, like, can we just get some kind of unified sense of what we want people to see us as and how we want to be represented? But go ahead, 100 watts. Let me hear what you got to say. Hey,
Good evening. Good
Alex.
evening. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
It's another beautiful day. I at least wanted to say hello and address you first before we did anything else.
No problem. I love it.
Um,
Thank you.
um, I think that like you were talking about creating things. I don't really think the problem is creating things. It's the fact that people find the ignorance more entertaining. Because I can, off the top of my head, I can list at least five people whose content I watch on a regular basis who I think is good content, is productive, it's moving us in the right direction. But all of these people are fighting to get maybe 5,000 subscribers, right? But
Right.
I can give you five people right now who I believe are probably a little more negative than positive to the community, but they probably somewhere in the hundred thousands
Yep.
or the 50,000 subscribers right now. Because I'm just trying to figure out why is it that the ignorance is more entertaining than the knowledgeable. And it
Do you think that the other content comes off too preachy? Like, is there another approach and way for us to address these things without being so preachy?
um
Mm.
man, to speak outside of my personal experience is hard. Like I really don't know what people's mindset is when they consume content, because I know for me the amount of time I spend, like if I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I don't go back and rewatch these shows because I'm looking at other videos of things like NFTs. I'm looking up
Mm.
things like, how to build a team. When you start a company, how do you employ people the right way? Like I'm looking up different content, so it's like I don't really know what other people are watching. Now, to be honest, every now and then I will take a break from it and I'll watch some of these videos, or I'll take a break from it and watch some ratchetness on Instagram, not gonna lie. But I know I know how to limit the ignorance versus the knowledge, and I take it as a grain of salt because I know what I'm going to watch it for.
Right. And see, that's why I mix it up on my channel. Cause it's like, okay, yes, people don't constantly want to be preached to and told what they need to be doing. But also we don't have enough of, okay, like people doing this in a fun way. We always are so serious, like, you gotta do this. Like, why can't we present the same stuff in a more in a fun way, so people can really be related, like people can catch on and people can want to follow and want to want to be a part.
Mm.
um what
because
you
time
think,
is running out.
what you think, Mr. Rucker? What's your take on everything?
Yeah, when you said that about the preachingness, and I can only be here for a few minutes. I got to get to my second job. I got to
No
rip these
problem,
people
go
off
ahead.
when it comes to this car
Go make
stuff.
that money. Go make that money for that prenup. You know what I'm saying?
You're damn right. Yes, ma'am. I know April Carter doesn't like me wearing a do-rag, but oh well. I like my do-rag. I got to keep the waves. But anyway, when it comes to our Black culture, we really do need to have, if you really want a family, we need to have what's called like a mission statement. Companies have mission statements, and it's just like everyone agrees on the goal. So there's no goals when it comes to relationships other than like, you cute, I'm cute, let's make a cute baby and let's do some cute stuff. But it should be more like, okay, what is this going to look like? What kind of house do we want? How much do you make? And what's the point of working so much? Do you want to retire early, or do you want to do it until 70? Like, these are some big things. So during that time, if we have a mission statement, then everything is copacetic and it can be fun. Now, when it comes down to preachy, yeah, social media, either it's preachy
Right.
or it's something so serious that it's damn near scary. It's like, damn, man, it's like,
Mm.
this is like a life and death situation. Like, dude, it's just a bill. Just like either you have it or you don't. You have the money or you don't.
Right.
So it's just it's a thin line. But if maybe it's like TV. If you just see a normal family, like middle class family, that's having like a little bit of struggle, but they get through it, and they have some laughs along the way, then people can say like, oh, okay, life is not that bad. It's not that depressing. Our culture is actually beautiful and it's fun. And we don't have to do so many negative things. Like, not everybody's cheating, not everyone's stealing, not everyone's like sleeping with somebody else. It's just like we live in life, we're having fun, but we're not trying to like ball out and show you like a facade. So it just needs to be like a consistent mission statement of what's the point of doing this? Do we believe in family? We need to see more of that on social media.
I love that, by the way. I just put down create a mission statement, because like how we need to create. I know we got the national anthem, the Black national anthem, but I don't feel like that's a mission statement, right? I feel like
Yeah.
we need to at least create what we want our culture to look like. Even if we go back in history and pull some stuff up, we need to create what we want our culture to look like and what we want to represent. And then that's the message we need to spread in these YouTube streets.
Right.
And we need to do it constructively. Like, we can still have fun.
Right.
I feel like what happens is we get into these spaces and then we think that these topics are so deep and we really don't know how to spin it so people can really enjoy talking about this stuff and really like, we can make it fun. We can put pictures up and be like, okay, is this what represents us, or is this what like, let's do something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's make it crazy, but like let's get to the point.
Yeah, if you
show people that we really want to evolve and we want to connect with our men. We want to we want the men to connect with women. We want to be mentally whole. We want all these things that people say we don't want.
Right.
We want those things.
Right.
And I appreciate that, Mr. I appreciate that for sure, Mr. Rucker, because I don't know if we have a consistent message or mission that we are promoting amongst Black people.
Right. Yeah, we just need to work on that. We
all are doing our own thing.
Yeah, it's like a damaged brand. It's like, okay, one ignorant thing is thinking, oh, that's our culture. Like, it's not, and y'all know it, but you don't care.
And then I hate when people say hip hop is our culture. I'm like, hip hop? What? That's not our culture. That's just a part of culture. This doesn't represent Black people.
Facts.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
What culture do we have? We have none.
That's
and I'm gonna make it a little serious. We don't have a culture. We basically follow suit based on the Eurocentric terminology of what they deem culture is. We don't own anything, so therefore it doesn't belong to us, right? And I feel like why like a person like me take a lot of things serious is because we don't understand the things that's happening on a daily basis to us. Like we take it for granted, we laugh at certain things, and we flow like life is not chaotic and sacrificial because on one hand we're dying, whether it's with the food, whether it's with the clothing, all these other things are how they move or maneuver things within society to affect us. But we want to party and do these things. Like, I honestly don't feel like it's time for fun. Yeah, you can have fun, but now is not the time to have fun. Our kids are being missing at a high rate, trafficking, organs, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So on there, food is killing us, so on and so forth. Like, where is the time for fun? Like even the schooling of our children is being conditioned. Like we need to separate and then, like Dude said, come up with the mission statement to strengthen our society. Therefore, aim to create culture. We dominate
Yes.
everything, but the money that's coming in don't belong to us. We make everybody else rich, and we're stuck in the back. You know what I mean? Like picking off the crumbs and then turn around crying for the same things our ancestors have been crying for years. So I don't see the fun in it. But I'm not saying you can't have fun. I think like our mindset is drifting away from what the goal really is. Period.
So let me I want you to speak, Pat, because I see you came on. And then I want us to all answer like what is culture? So Pet Charles, that's what you want me to call? What do you have to say before we all answer that question? Like what is culture? That's a good question from Hanifa.
No, I want to answer the question. I want to take a stab at answering it now, if you
Go
don't mind.
ahead. Go ahead. I would love it.
Um, First of all, culture is organic. It's a dynamic and evolutive process that takes place within a people that adapt to their conditions. Um, if you look at South Asia, for example, they have culture, so to speak. A lot of their culture will, for example, be based on arranged marriages. They tend to have larger families, and those are usually characteristics of people that were largely agrarian. If you look in Africa, you'll see the same thing. And when people are agrarian and they're not mobile, there are certain kind of things that happen in the village that keeps people, in line and in check and discipline. Now, over time, the group has then been, taught to be greater than the individual. So you find in those cultures that individualism and how people feel as individuals are highly subrogated. When you look at a country like the US, for example, which is not organically built, and, let's face it, when you think about spiritualism, you think about maybe Tibet. Nobody comes to America for spiritualism. People come to America for materiality. And materiality is the quintessence of low self-esteem. So you got a bunch of people put together, millions of them, whose only objective is to see, to measure themselves about how much they have relative to somebody else. What kind of dynamic do you think is going to evolve from that? So I think that is the mix within which U.S. culture takes place. It's a highly materialistic culture that looks at what people have relative to other people, and that is that's a powder keg. So that's what I would say.
I
The U.S.
agree.
culture is largely a materialistic culture, if I had to sum it up in a single sentence.
We are. And so a lot of other cultures, they get their basis from like another country, right? Which a lot of Black people were brought here. A lot of our culture probably comes from, when our ancestors were brought here unwillingly in slavery and like some of the
Yes,
things we
and yes,
created. And
yes.
so we have a lot of that ingrained in our culture because like soul food and stuff like that we've passed down, right? But where is our sense of family, community, like where does that come from, right? Because it was kind of essentially destroyed in that time. So I guess
No,
maybe
actually, it wasn't destroyed during slavery. If you recall all these, if we believe some of these slavery movies, and I don't want to go there, but during Reconstruction, a lot of people spent the first thing they did was trying to find their wives or their children who were sold during slavery. And as quiet as it's kept, one of the most progress that a human race has ever made in human history was for Black America after the end of slavery. Please understand, in 1865, we got a people who were largely illiterate. And by the 1920s or whatever, we
right.
don't give Booker T. Washington enough credit. Tuskegee Institute, as it exists today, was founded by ex-slaves who literally built the bricks and built that school from nothing. And today, Tuskegee Institute is the place where the Army goes to recruit Army cooks. It's one of the best culinary arts institute in the world. It's got one of the best animal husbandry programs in the world. We don't celebrate those type of things because we focus on a whole bunch of other things. So, but I think part of what we are reacting to goes back to, I don't know if we probably need to go back and study both something called the Black National Convention that took place in Gary, Indiana in 1972.
Yes.
And also study some of the comments that J. Edgar Hoover made and why there's an attack on Black cultural icons, for example, like say a Bill Cosby, a Michael Jackson. Because at the end of the day, these are the people who present the images for us, whether good, bad, or indifferent, and the images that when you travel globally, people project onto you. So one thing that the world universally agrees upon is Black people know how to sing and dance. It doesn't matter whether, and I was so shocked, Black people drive the music and cultural influence in Latin America. They drive it in North America, and they're even driving it in Europe. So the world is uniformly agreed upon that. The world is also uniformly, believe it or not, and I know this might go contrary to the grain of what people believe here, but I just deal with research and empirics. Do you know that a study found that Black men had the most attractive face in the world? You couldn't tell from YouTube.
That's right.
Black men followed by Asian women. Studies have shown that.
Yep.
So are we surprised then? A bunch of, and I don't want to, I want to watch my language really carefully because I understand sometimes channels get striked.
You know what? I saw, Pat Charles, I saw that study because it saw Black men or darker men as more protective, and they felt like there was more security. They liked the facial features. They felt, because women selected men with darker skin because they felt that those men would be more protective, and we, women, we like security, right? So
black
men were the most desirable, or darker men, not even Black men, because light-skinned men were not as desirable as the darker skinned men in that study, that the one that I saw. I don't know if you saw the same one.
And statistics also show that single Black fathers in America are the best fathers. So I just, so for me, I deal in the world of numbers. Okay. So I don't know what is happening on YouTube and social media. And I don't know, unfortunately, that's the place where most of us get our information these days.
Yes.
And I touch on a couple of things. So let me just embellish on them and then I'll shut up because I'm long-winded. I talked about J. Edgar Hoover, and one of the stories that stuck out to my mind, they said that there was a concert that happened in Boston, and James Brown was there. And what happened at James Brown. And what was happening in Boston, a race riot was about to go down. And James Brown, who, he's a singer, right? Back then, as we know, Jim Brown was really wealthy back then. He was one of the first guys to have his own private jet or whatever. And James Brown came on stage and he told Black people not to do it. And everybody listened and followed to what he said. And they said that J. Edgar Hoover, who was then head of the FBI, response to that is that no one man should have that power. And J. Edgar Hoover made it a point then to make sure that Black celebrities never had that power. One of his other responses was that there must never be another Black Messiah, responding to the power that Martin Luther King had in marches and so on, right? So so that is an institutional stuff. That is a law enforcement process to destroy Black cultural icons, right? That is on record. Number two, talking about the Black National Convention in 1972, believe it or not, young Jesse Jackson and some of the other people maybe in their 70s, probably even early 80s now, decided one of the ways that they were going to get Black so-called power in America was to elect more Black elected officials. So people like Gary Hatcher, I think that back then a guy named Carl Stokes, the mayor of Cleveland, Mayor Young from Detroit. So they, I think back then in 1972, the Black Caucus only had maybe about 5 or 6. I don't even think they had 10 people. So out of that meeting, they say, you know what, we need to go and get more Black elected officials elected. So they went and they got voter registration drive. That's why you see they're still using some of that same old strategy.
That's right.
And they put a lot of Black places in high faces. I mean, Black faces in high places, sorry. But we've now had about 50 years of that. And we are now seeing that politics without economics, as they say, is symbol without substance. So, if you look at elected officials, how many Chinese American elected officials are there? And I doubt seriously that Black people believe that they have more power than Chinese American. They will buy Maxine Waters. They will buy whoever. In fact, speaking of that, who got an Asian crime bill passed?
Oh, yeah.
How many
We
Asians
sure
are there?
did.
How many Asians are there in Congress? And how long have we been trying to get? We can't even get the reparation bill on the floor for 40 years or something or more. I think John Conyers tried to get that bill on the floor just to study.
That's right.
To study. Not even, remember, we aren't even talking about reparations. I don't even.
But that bill got passed just like that. A hate crime that we've been fighting for.
Well, first of all, they already have a hate crime bill. They got a redundant bill. They got a bill separate for them. And again, not to get your channel strike, a certain politician said that they're not going to sit there and say that they're going to do anything specifically for Black people. And we all know who that politician is, or was, right? And the first thing that politician did when a white guy went and shot Asian woman in a massage parlor, I thought the story coming out of that would have been sex trafficking, and whether or not those people were there working legally. We all know what goes on in those kind of places. Instead, what came out of that was some kind of white supremacy, anti-Asian crime bill. Yes. And if you're like me and you watch social media, the face of that was actually made to be black people. Black people beating up on Asians. And as I recall, again, you guys watch what I watch, I saw a bunch of Black women getting beat up in Asian nail salon, getting beat up with broomstick kicked and shot. Even 2 of them even got killed somewhere, I think, in Arkansas.
Yes.
I didn't hear a single Black politician call for a change in law or anything. I didn't hear a word. So let me shut up because I could go on with so many.
No, you stay on. You stay on, brother. Go ahead, Jermaine. I know you got some stuff.
You have valid points, but I feel like it's diluted. I feel like we look on the surface. We forgot that we're a lot more powerful than they actually exhibit. Like, we are not beneath them. Like, on one hand, they say, hey, we couldn't read. But on the other hand, we build everything that's being utilized today. It's the mind effery that continues to go on that have us, like, debasing ourselves, not understanding our value. Like, kind of like now where you have females versus males, because the movement that was created by Europeans was taken up by Aboriginal females. And to this day, be utilized and glorified, right? So it's like men versus female, and most females are forgetting that every man came out of a woman, right? Yeah. The Aboriginal female forgot how powerful she is, and that she has a portal within her that brings forth life within this world. And it's not about this economics things that they spew about. It's really about survival, right? The planet belongs to us. The sun proves that to you on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? So we need to look back. We go back further than over 90,000 years, right? But yet you have a set of people that has different variations in their DNA, like dog, flies, and so on and so forth, telling us who we are as a people and having us going against each other.
That's right. They've been trying to define what culture is. So tell me, what is culture? Because that's what people are wanting to know. What do we think is Black culture?
We are deeper than what they want us to believe. They want to tell us we have one. No, we have this whole world, from the pyramids to paintings to music to every single thing that is known within nature. We utilize and we have created, right? And they whitewash everything and tell you that, oh, they're smarter, when in actuality, it's a scientific study that was done by 15 scientists proving that not only is blacks smarter than these people, we have 3 more extra genes within our DNA indicating that, right? So if you got these things, these depictions, like, you know, like rap music, raising our kids, and we're looking at these things saying we're still slaves, we're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna grow up with that mentality. And then the food, like the sugar, is like messing with our minds and having us walking past the female, watching her get knocked out, and then record it and put it on World Star like it's a good thing. Like, I remember when men used to put hands on other men and hold them accountable if they dare touch their women, right? But now we let a lot of things slide, and we lost that. In order to change us and create back something what we call culture, we need to not only stand up for the women, but teach the women how powerful they really are and put them back in the center of balance. And that will change the men, because wherever the woman goes, the man follows. Point blank, period.
We're gonna have to get into teaching us the power. But what you think, either Pat Charles or 100 Watts, what is culture?
I think culture. What's important is culture is what people use to identify with who they are, right? A particular group will use food or fashion or their music to identify with who they are. I think that even though you know we might not all agree, to say that hip hop is not a part of culture, I think is wrong. Like we're creating a separation there, because there are people who were only raised on hip hop, and that is what they use to identify as who they are. And that doesn't mean that they have to listen to the demonstrative music. They could be fans of people who are actually speaking of our story, that are speaking of growth, right? There are plenty of artists that I can think of that actually speak to the growth and the struggle of Black people. And it's not necessarily I'm gonna sell bricks and I'm gonna go to the strip club. It's not that's not their kind of music, right? I think those kinds of people are great examples as to how their voice can be used to identify with who we are, right?
Yeah.
Even though we might not agree with it, but soul food is probably what we were, you know, a lot of us were raised on. Like, that's what we can identify with, you know, because you can easily point at another dish and say, this is from that culture, this is from that culture. But like, if this is all I have to identify with me being Black, I want that. You know, I think that we can't take away from what people use to identify as Black. Now, if it's not healthy or not part of the growth, then we can talk about that. But to just say that they don't have anything to identify with, to anything to point to identify with who they are, I think that that's unfair and taken away with what people stand for as Black people.
That's right.
All
right.
I
know, Petra.
one question, and then I'm gonna hang up because I'm at work.
Okay,
right?
okay, Jermaine, go ahead and ask your question, because I know you
work.
Okay. Why do we call ourselves Black?
That's a good question. Pat Charles, you want to answer? Because I know I want you to answer.
We've always been called Black. I mean, if you go back to I think there's a book written in the year 850 by a Black Iraqi, and the title of the book, when translated, was called "The Superiority of the Black Over the White." That was written. I don't know if you guys noticed. There's a large black population in Basra in Iraq. They were brought there from Africa as slaves to grow rice, and they were so physically stronger, and they had one of the most successful slave revolts in history before the Haitian Revolution. Their slave revolt was so effective, it led to the fall of one of the great Islamic caliphates. So again, Hollywood is not. Even if Hollywood depicts these again, you know what? Let me don't go there because I guarantee I'm gonna say something that's gonna be.
I'm a,
They're gonna get this channel in trouble.
I'm a interject.
Okay, go ahead,
Right?
Jermaine.
So where did the term mulatto? Why did they call us Indians before they start calling us mulatto? Before they start calling us African American? Before they actually start calling us black? Because the word black actually means bleak, pale, or bleach, and it really applies to Eurocentric people, and it's a status. It doesn't do nothing to your ethnicity at all. White is sovereignty, and white applies to us. So like they play with words a lot, right? And that's the thing. I feel like we need to, not saying that we don't read, but I feel like we need to read more and understand how they switch up the language, right? And get certain dictionaries, like a 1928 dictionary, so you really see what certain words mean before we actually utilize it. Because we were never black, we never identified as it. Yes, there was books that they have written to say otherwise, but before that, if you go back further, we would never identify as black. You keep saying you're black, but you're basically saying that you're absence of color. You don't exist, period. And I'm gonna
But
say peace, love, and
but
good
that's
night
not
to y'all.
true.
Bye.
It's
You
a
come
fact.
back. You come
No,
back.
no, 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 no. The one piece that's not true. Black is an involvement of all colors. You need all of the colors to make black.
On a deeper level, yes. On a spiritual level, yes. If you deal with the
Okay.
chakra system, yes. But within their terminology, black has no right in law, so on and so forth. You're still documented as a slave, so therefore that's why they get away with a lot of things utilizing that terminology.
I see what he's saying, that the language of it, the way that they have placed black label on us, is really changed the way people see the word black, or what it represents, right? We're actually the opposite of black, is what he's saying. What do you agree with that? Like,
If you sit in the sun, you will realize. If you sit in the sun, you will realize your skin is every color of the rainbow. So he's actually right on that.
Okay.
Every color do come from black, but that's on a spiritual note. That's not based on how they utilize it in law. In law, you're still a slave, and you don't have rights. So you keep using that terminology.
Right.
And African American, how can you be African American and be tied to two actual continent? That don't make no sense.
Yeah.
So we keep identifying with these terminologies that's hindering us, right? And we don't understand it, and that's basically what it is. But that's it for me. We'll talk some other time. You guys have a great night. All right,
you
bye.
come back.
Bye.
Okay. All righty.
All right, later.
A lot of people say white is actually the absence of color. Do you guys agree with that? Like, white is
100%.
the absence of color, not black, right? Black is like the definition of color. We got to bring that brother back, because I got to figure out what he mean by that, right? Like, I'm like, what? Wait, I'm black. What? I'm not. Okay. I honestly thought.
First of all, all the colors in the world are just different shades of melanin. We are actually brown people. Melanin is more of a brown or sepia type color, and it's just that when you have so much brown to
I
the
like
eye,
that.
it looks black. My niece is a hairdresser, and I remember I was talking to her and about dyeing hair, and she said, "No, you don't want to use black." She said, "You got to use dark brown." And dark brown is indistinguishable to the naked eye from black. So we are actually a very dark brown people. And the Europeans are really, have a lot less melanin than us. So that's why they look a little more, pale. So if we want to get technical from a scientific point of view, that's what it is. But I think, black has become, one of the things that used to puzzle me, I said, well, why did they call the West Indies the West Indies? Why did they call them, why am I called a West Indian? I'm not from India. I don't look like that. And why did they refer to India as East Ethiopia? I wonder how many people know that. They used to call the ancient Greeks referred to southern India as East Ethiopia. And the word Ethiopia itself referred to all of North Africa, not the country we call Ethiopia today. That country was called Abyssinia up until 1934. So when I start thinking about that, it come to find out that Christopher Columbus, what they don't teach us in school is that in 1496, after Isabella and Ferdinand kicked out Islam from Spain and Portugal, what those guys did is they went into the Mediterranean and they stopped Europeans from trading with the East. If you remember the stories about Marco Polo, contrary to popular opinion, things like spaghetti came from China. Marco Polo went to China and found that stuff, right? Well, European could not, the East has always been the center of trade, China and India and places like that. It's just the pendulum is swinging back, but that's a different story altogether. Anyway, Europe couldn't trade, couldn't get spices, couldn't get, we all know the stuff about perfume, how the Berbers and other people introduced it into Spain because the people wasn't taking showers, blah, 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 right? And it brought the Dark Ages onto Europe. That's why all these Europeans got in ships and tried to leave Europe because they were starving to death. They were plagued with famines. Now, what happened is there's something called the trade winds that we learn in school off the coast of Africa, right around where Ghana is, and a lot of West Africa. There's a certain time of year. If you just sit in a ship, if you just put the ship there and just sit in it and do nothing and put a sail on it, the wind will take you and drop you straight on the shores of northern Brazil. It'll take that current in the ocean will drop you directly in the West Indies. What happened is Christopher Columbus was trying to go around Africa to get away from the Mediterranean to avoid those Islamic people. And he got caught up in that current, and it dropped him in the West Indies. And when he got there, he thought he was in India because the indigenous people of the Caribbean look like people from southern India. They look like so-called southern Asians. A few of them are still alive today in countries like Dominica, contrary to popular opinion.
So you think we're a mixture of all of that? You saying we
can't? Right. I'm just saying where the names and all of this type of stuff comes from, right? Right. Was because of Europeans who got lost. Europeans got lost looking for East Ethiopia, so to speak. And like they say, everywhere they go, they found quote unquote people that look like East Ethiopians, right?
They found people with melanin in their skin.
I don't know how the word black.
Let Hanifa. I want to.
Sure. No problem.
And let her speak on what is culture and give us your thoughts, Hanifa, because we want to have this conversation. Hi, honey. I missed you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for coming. I love your perspective. I know you're gonna drop us some jewels for us today and get us talking.
I'm actually doing a drive-by. I'm kind of multitasking, but I want to say peace to Pete Charles, and peace to 100 watts, and much love to you, Juana, always as usual. I'm just running through to just address the Black Americans don't have culture thing.
That's right.
I hear it a lot. I am a Caribbean woman, born and raised. I came here when I was already almost a young adult. I was almost 18 when I came to the States. And I hear it a lot, and I'm around a lot of Black Americans. And it pains me to hear it, because what I do realize is that as long as Black Americans think they don't have culture, then their culture is up for grabs by anyone. If you don't think you have culture, then there are no gatekeepers. There's no one who is safeguarding that particular culture. The reality is this: everyone has culture. If you take a group of people and you put them in an environment, and let's say it's an environment of bondage, right? They are going to create a culture within that environment. Now, if that culture is based on survival, so be it. Now, we talk about African American culture, where we talk about soul food. Is soul food the healthiest? No. But our ancestors did what? They did the best with what they had at the time, right? And they created culture from it, right? So it goes the same. If you put any group of people anywhere, they are going to create, whether it's we don't go outside after this hour. You have generations of people that say, okay, I'll give you an example. My mother, we couldn't walk on our knees in the house.
Okay.
Okay. We just couldn't walk because, and if you ask my mom why not, she will say that is what the old people say, right? Why? Because by the time it got to her generation, she didn't even know the meaning behind why, right? But all of us, all of us have that. And I have a lot of Black American friends. When New Year's come, I realize that coming from the Caribbean, we all have this green dish that we make for New Year's, right? You talk to some Africans, specifically West Africans, they have the same culture that they do. People from the South, they might do black eyed peas, but they still have a green involved, right? For prosperity, right? And abundance. Right. That is culture. And that and a lot of what African Americans do, what happens is that they don't even realize the connection back to the continent, right? That it has the meaning behind of it. And that's why I use the example of my mother. My mother, there's a lot of things we couldn't do. We couldn't whistle in the house. We could not whistle in the house, right? Because a lot of it have like spiritual meaning behind it. Yes. But by the time it got to my mother, it had lost its like its explanation as to why not. So what they resorted to is, well, that's what the old people say. That's what the old people would say, right? I find it here even in the South. I am with someone from the South. He and I talk, and he's very cultured. He knows his generations. I want to say about 4 generations back from Virginia, through and through. And we have these conversations all the time, and we are constantly finding similarities in each other's culture. I actually think that, so Black Americans, when I hear that, I have to come up and say something, because I'm like, I want you to stop saying that. Now, if there are things within the culture that needs to be changed, culture can evolve. It's the people that make the culture. Culture can be changed. If you want to say, yo, soul food is not the healthiest food, right? If you want to make changes to that, then you can do so, because culture is not this static, dead thing, right? It's always evolving, because the people is who create culture. If you want to critique the culture, if you want to say this culture is bad, or that part of the culture is bad, that's fine. But to say you don't have culture, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself, because I'm like, I look around me and I see it all the time. People that come here, right? Most of us that come here from the islands, from, you know, we participate in African American culture. We do, right? And we know it's African American culture. So when I just want to say, it's hard for me to have this conversation, because there's a certain duality I deal with. I am from the Caribbean, but I am from a territory of the Caribbean. So technically, on paper, I would be Black American. What that means is I was born an American citizen. I don't need paperwork, immigration process, none of that to get here. I am from the U.S. Virgin Islands. We are a territory. However, I am a born Caribbean woman through and through. So there's a duality that's there. So when people hear me talk about Black Americans, it's like, well, you can't. Yes, I can. Yes, I can, to a certain extent. And I know my limits. Yes. I do. Out of respect.
You respect boundaries. Yes, you do.
Absolutely. I know my boundaries. I'm not going to argue with a Black American who have generations, four generations back here. I'm not going to go back and forth with them about that. My generations that I go back to comes from the Caribbean. However, when I talk about Black Americans and them saying they don't have culture, the reason why it pains me, because I'm just like, how do you not see that? And that's why I asked the question, let's define culture. Everyone has culture. Yes. If there is no culture, if you put people in a situation, they will create a culture. That is how it works. That is how human nature operates. So I just wanted to do my little pass through and say that, because every time I hear it, it makes me cringe. It makes me cringe. It makes me cringe, and it makes me want to just start like throwing a whole bunch of books out there. Like, no, that's not true. You guys have such a rich culture, and a lot of your culture it comes from your ancestors who brought it. Some of them who brought it during the Ma'afa with them. That is what happens, right? Your culture can also be, you could take things from cultures around you to add on to your culture. and actually make it your own. I have a lot of examples, but I'm going to stop there and let everybody else talk. But I just
I
wanted to
love it.
pass through and say that because I love my Black American sisters and brothers. I
That's
don't
right.
play that. I'm very protective of them. You know, I might be a little biased because I'm with one and I love him to death. And so I just don't play that. I just
That's
don't. But
even better.
that's it.
That's even better. You
That's
know,
all I wanted to say. Go ahead, Juana.
I want you to stay on for one more question because I want JP. Thank you. Welcome, JP. I love her. Oh my gosh, she's definitely what we need on this panel. I want to talk about what is culture, JP. I want to hear what you got to say about that. Because what happens is, to Hanifa's point, a lot of people don't think that Black people have culture. Like they don't believe that we have even Mr. Rucker mentioned like a mission statement or a cohesive collective way that we do things, right? That's consistent among not all of us. Obviously, it's always going to be some deviation from it amongst, we're not a monolith like everyone always say. But is there a collective way that we behave, that we act, the way we think or the way we raise our children that we can pass down? Or what is culture to us? That's what I guess people want to know.
First off, peace and light to the panel. Miss Hanifa, honey, it's been a long time since we've been on the same screen together. I miss you. Appreciate you. I know it may seem like when I walked away from everybody. That's not the case. Paramount to everything is protecting my mental health in every space that I'm in because I know what it means. So culture, to me, for Black Americans, is compassion. Like it is the love. It's when I was a 6-year-old girl being able to walk up and down Lamar Street or Willette in Memphis, Tennessee, and not have to worry about anybody doing anything to me. I knew the man at the vegetable stand at the corner on one end and the lady at the house at the other end who did the doggone stitching and sewing for my little Sunday dresses. Like we have given away everything that is us except the one thing that is truly us, which is our spirit. But we haven't defined it for ourselves, and other people have always tried to define it for us, and that's the biggest problem. I think if you really want to figure out what culture is across the diaspora, it's the fact that you, me, Pet Charles, Hanifa, and 100 Watts somehow feel the same injury when we hear certain words. Somehow we have the same movements when we come under fire. And that is something a whole lot deeper than the color of our skin, where the ship landed or stopped at the time. It is something that is innate in being stolen from where we are from, placed in this spot. Not all of us, but at the end of the day, we are here in an unfamiliar land with an unfamiliar language in a world where nobody looks like we do except us.
Right.
And that's culture. At the end of the day, that's where we need to start. Look at them, understand that they have the same injuries tattooed on their spirit, whether or not you can see it on their face. Meet them like that.
I think that a lot of times what happens is people hear what we don't agree with and what is not something that they appreciate about Black women, Black men. We draw that out. We can talk about that for days, hours. We can create multiple topics about it. Black women do this, and this is the angry Black. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen that topic in several different ways, but a lot of people don't know how to not be that, right? Like, what do we need to do to partner, to get on the same page, to be wife material for our men to desire us? What do Black men have to do for us to feel safe? Like, what are these things that we can ingrain in culture to create some sort of normalcy in partnering because right now what people see is that we have children out of wedlock, right? We're single mothers, or they paint this picture that the men are not involved, and we know that's not true, right? We've seen studies that combat that. but it's just this image of Black men not being involved and Black men not taking care of their kids. And so how do we create these things in culture that translates to our generations, right? With all the other influences that's happening around in the school system. 100 Watts, I think he talked about how the school system is impacting how our children think and what they believe, and really eliminating culture, and making like a more of a neutral like perspective and stance for kids. So what do we do? Like, how do we get to a place where we can implement some of these structures so that we can start to partner and build?
One, I gotta go, but I'll just say this. I'll leave with this. For me, I always start with the person in the mirror. And for me, folks, we need to get over our damn selves individually, because individualism has never worked for us. It has never worked for us. When we have these conversations, what I often see, which frustrates me as well, and you guys know I'm passionate, is there's this conversation around individual progress. And we discuss individual progress as if it's collective progress, and it is not. There is a big difference between the two, right? We might see Michelle Obama and President Obama, and it's like, yes, we're moving forward. No, they're moving forward. They're moving forward. I'm being so honest about this right now. I'm just having a candid moment right now. We really need to get over ourselves and start focusing on collective progress. And what does that mean? I think a lot of our issues and conflicts with each other are internal conflicts within ourselves that spill over into our interactions with each other. Some of us are dealing with self-hate and embarrassment because of what the media and others and propaganda and whatever else you want to call have fed us, right? You heard Pete just talked about Black fathers being some of the most involved fathers, right? That information is out there. But is that what is represented oftentimes in media? No. However, we are consuming this and we are internalizing it. Now we are looking at our skin and saying, I don't want to be affiliated with that. So therefore, right, but I am that. I look like Tawana. I look like JP. So what do? I try to disassociate myself with Blackness. So when I meet a JP who is Black, I am approaching her as a person who is at conflict with themselves already. So why do you think I am going to unify with JP when I cannot unify those parts of myself? I cannot reconcile those parts of myself. So it starts with individuals getting over individualism, being honest. If you are dealing with self-hate, then you have to face it head on. You have to face it head on. There are things about me as a Black woman, right, that I've inherited from my own culture, right, that I had to look at and say, no, this doesn't work. I am a Black woman who decided to never hit my children. That goes against Caribbean culture. That goes against full-time Caribbean culture.
Preach.
And Black culture.
Period.
Yes.
Can we just talk about it?
So I made that decision. I have 2 boys. I made that decision for myself, for my boys. Why? Because when you know better, you do better. Right? We like to talk about everything else as Black. And I know I'm digressing here, but I'm going to come back. We like to talk about everything as far as, we need to relinquish this and let this go because that's from slavery days. Everything but whooping our children. Why don't we want to give that up? Why can't Black children be loved just as gentle as any other children? Why? So I just bring that up to say we have to start with ourselves. If there is something within you that you say, I don't want to be affiliated with Black people, you have to dig deeper. I don't care. Go sit on somebody's yellow, red, or blue couch somewhere and unpack that. Because until you deal with that, Tawana, I cannot love you the way that I should. I cannot love Pete the way that I should, and I cannot love JP or 100 watts the way that I should, because I have an issue with loving the black person I see in the mirror. So we have to start there. But I'm going to go ahead and head out, guys. I was just passing through, but I'm still going to be watching.
Thank you, Latifa. Thank you. Yes, stay in the comments, honey, because we love what you got to say. Yes, go ahead, JP. I know you got some stuff to follow up with.
When we're gonna talk about let's just talk about the vestiges of slavery that we won't let go of, and start with the spanking thing. You're your child's first bully. Full stop. You are standing over your baby with your hand, your belt, whatever it is you got, and you are letting them know that the person that they love the most, who told them that they will always be for them no matter what, will hit them when they are offended or disappointed by them. That's just why. Why does this thing exist when this is not how you really love your children? When you know that you brought them into this world seeing them as something glorious. For the most part, not all of us do. Let me be honest about that too. Right. But we have to get away from the things like what is it? Spare the rod, spoil the child. What's wrong with spoiling a black child? What's wrong with spoiling any child? Innocence is precious. And the moment that you start doing things like putting your hands on them, yelling at them, calling them out their name because, well, society is going to do it to them anyway, you set them up to see you as the enemy too. So where do they go for love and support? Where do they go when they need somebody? They go out into the street, they go to the gangs, they go to these other adults who will tell them that they love them, but then they suck them in and then they pimp them. We have to talk about these things because this is the realness of who we are.
That's right. That's right. Corporal punishment, I don't know if people really get the impact that it has on our children. And then they wonder why we have this violence and we're combating all these other things in our community because we're repeating. Sometimes some things are patterns that we need to destroy. And sometimes it's culture that we need to inherit. But I don't know if people really understand the difference. Pat, do you have anything that you want to say in response to anything that's been said? I know you've been quiet for a minute. I want to give you, some time to get your thoughts out.
All these yapping women, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to go back to the initial question of culture.
Yes.
And I jot down a few things here, and here's one of the things that the world says about, and you could chime in as a black woman.
Okay.
I'm always fascinated when there's some programs on YouTube that interviews foreign women and how they think about black men, for example, right? They'll go to Korea on the streets and they will go to different places. And almost uniformly, even though they don't use the word swag, that is what the women like. So black men in America in particular have a unique swag. That is definitely part of black culture. And I think even black women might agree on that too. I don't know what the black woman, female, if the black female have an equivalent, but I do know that black males, that's the way black males in America dress. They are the avant-garde of fashion. Contrary to popular opinion, a lot of what's coming out of Paris and Milan and all of those places from the male side, again, I can't speak for the female,
right,
is driven by what started off as so-called black street culture. Now, I hope that Generation Y and Z get angry at what I'm about to say. Okay. But I think this generation of black youngsters, and perhaps the one before, is the first time in black history since slavery that a new art form has not been created. If you look back, there was blues, right? The blues was considered actually vulgar music back in the day when it came out, right? Then there was ragtime, same thing. Jazz, same thing, right? So-called R&B, same thing. So-called hip-hop began since around 1979, late 70s, and we haven't created a new art form since. Come on, man, that's disgusting. So I think in a way, it's both disgusting and why? Because we don't control, we are the creators, but we are not the financial controllers of it. And I go back to my initial point. But before I do it, let me talk about some other things here. Right? The most impactful movie I've ever seen in my life was Daughters of the Dust by Julie Dash. And if people don't know what that movie is, they really need to check it out. She's an independent film producer, and she made a movie about the Gullah Geechee Islands. And it's unfortunate that with all this ADOS and all this FBA, and I don't want to get into that talk going on, that the people in the of the islands of the coast of Georgia, mostly Georgia, South Carolina, and part of North Florida, right? Okay. Those are the few Black people in America that got their own land after slavery, preserved their own culture. And the government in those places are slowly, taking away those land. And you will hear, so in other words, we won't protect the land that we got. We won't protect the property that we got, but we are seeking some fantasy about reparations for something and arguing over something that we haven't even gotten. So again, but that's another story. The other thing I want to talk about is the Harlem Renaissance. Again, documented a lot of Black culture, but the key progenitor of Black culture used to be the Black church. The Black church. The Black church dictated the morality. And this was the one place, I think what I did, I read once where about, believe it or not, 70% of Black people used to attend church regularly on Sunday. I don't think that's the case anymore. But that's one place where you get everybody together, right? You can get people congregating at least once a week in a room. And that is how well, guess what? Starting with the Bush initiative and maybe even before that, the government of the United States decided that, you know what, we're going to give churches money on the condition that they don't get actively involved in the political life of the country. If you think what you're saying is BS, I want you to name one Black minister. One is the smallest number, right? Whose name come to mind out of the Black Lives Matter movement? Which Black church or Black minister was on the street out there at the forefront of the Black Lives Matter movement? Just all I want is one.
Al Sharpton.
No. full damn stop. I was going to give it to
a response, as they say.
I was going to give it to
what church does he have? I'm talking about churches receiving. He receives money, all right, but it's not. Don't get you again.
Ain't he a pastor?
I'm not going to say anything.
He's not a pastor. I thought he was a pastor.
No, they had to have a church. The government would give money to the churches.
Oh, give it to the church.
Yeah, the church. Yeah, anybody can call himself a
pastor.
But Al Sharpton wasn't. He came in late in the game. He came in late, and you remember how the crowd responded to him, right? Those young people booed him out, and they tell him don't come. So he wasn't welcome at all.
Okay.
And do y'all remember how Al Sharpton started out in the game? Do y'all remember how Al Sharpton got started in this thing? Okay. I'm so sorry to say that her name was Tawana Brawley. And
my mama didn't know. She obviously didn't know.
Yeah. It turned out, I believe, to be an untruth, kind of like the Jussie Smollett thing, but supposedly she was a young Black woman who had been assaulted by white men, stepped in a trash bag, I believe it was, but it turned out all to be untrue. Now, how much of it he knew was untrue at the time and so on and so forth, but the continued poverty pimping since then has not aided his appearance, right? This is one of the things, and I'm gonna shout him out because I love him. I love Cuzzo. Darrell, I would carry this man over my shoulder if I got to bring him somewhere. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But some of his antics, the hitting a little too hard, the not being sure when you come out swinging, those things can cost you. And in this case, I believe that had he not had that situation, and then wasn't he present when? No, he wasn't. But and then not riding the coattails of previous leaders. One of the things that I had a bigger problem with him and the others, I like, by the way, you asked me who I would say. I think his name is William Barber. He's out of North Carolina. I believe that he does have a church.
Yep. That's one name. Yep.
And he actually did have Moral Monday. He would stand in front of the Capitol and, they tried to, form a human chain. We're not going to let nobody enter, that kind of thing. So he did do something. Whereas to me, the Al Sharptons of the world, even Jesse Jackson, have kind of ridden the coattails of the men that they supported at the time. They were great men, but what did you do to carry on their greatness? What did you do to amplify or exemplify or even take it to the next level. You just allow and now when their names are being dragged through the mud, are you really hearing these men protect the names of Martin Luther King Jr. and those who came before? That's my problem.
Pat, who else were you mentioning as far as like in the Black churches that's been introduced?
Yeah, well, I think what was happening is the Black church, of course, you believe it or not, is very conservative. And so, there were at one time, one of the things I've done is I go back. I remember I was on YouTube just channel surfing and I decided to listen. I didn't know much about Marvin Gaye. I everybody talk about Marvin Gaye and how important he was. And I went back and everybody would be talking about Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. And you know what I'm saying? And I went back and listened to some of those stuff, man. I was shocked at the lyrics, at the way those artists presented themselves. And when you go on YouTube, they will recommend another channel. And I sat down and binge watch music from the 60s and 70s for hours. And I would read the comments and I'm hearing young people in their 20s say, look, I'm 21 year old, I'm 18 year old, and my grandma, why can't we get that back again, right? Young people are clamoring for it. There's an audience out there that would accept it. And I said to myself, why is it that is not the case? You go back to the 80s or maybe the early 90s, people like Music Soul Child and some of these guys, why, how come R&B, that is, how much more culture can you get? The ballad, the way Black men sing love songs is unique. Nobody else can evoke that range of emotion, right? How, and when you look at who's getting awards and what kind of awards. So I think what is happening to our culture, so to speak, is that there's a concerted attempt, effort by the government, and I won't say any more than that, to destroy it. Why? Because that culture, I think we still don't realize the trauma that the Black movement of the 60s and 70s has visited on America, As a result of what Black people did in the 60s and 70s, every other body in America became energized. And I'm gonna let me see if I choose my words very carefully. The general attitude in America is if you're gonna do something for the N-words, then you're gonna do something for everybody else. Why? Because we have a hegemony, a pecking order where the N-words must always be at the bottom. So anything that is done to elevate them from that position, we're going to put everybody in it, and that way the relative pecking order stays the same.
That's right.
So, and that's another culture, that's another historical issue. I don't want to touch it. That's another separate issue. So we are being hit from, look at the way the guys play basketball, right? When a Black man, not surprisingly, invented the dunk. When the dunk came into basketball, it was banned, right? Look at football, right? Used to be Black people couldn't play. We know about the quarterback part, but what we probably didn't know is about the middle linebacker part. The middle linebacker, like the quarterback on the defense. That's the smart guy there, right? Up until Mike Singletary, who revolutionized the game. Everybody talk about Dick Butkus from Chicago. So over and over again, whenever we are allowed fair play, we dominate. That would be the case even in finance and academics or whatever, because because this melanin, one of the things that melanin does is it absorbs energy from the sun. So we absorb energy, and of course, like firewood, right? When you burn firewood, what it does, it gives back all the energy that came in. So that's what we are doing. We let back out the energy that we absorb from the sun. So I think, there's a constant attack on us, and not surprisingly, it seems as though a large amount of us have internalized it, and we need to take a step back from the television, so to speak, and just really think about it. So I think culture, one of the things that annoys me, if you want to see me, like they say where I come from, turn beast, is use the phrase Southern cooking. I get so infuriated. I say, who are the cooks in the South? What the hell do you mean by Southern cooking? What is that? Well, you ladies, I want you to answer. Who are the cooks in the South? You tell me.
I don't know. I'm in the Midwest and I cook.
You don't know who was cooking on the plantation, right?
Yeah. I know who was cooking on the
We
porch.
know
Right.
who was cooking.
Right. So it's not, so when we say soul food, we act like if soul food is something unique to us. No, we were relegated to that, but we also cook the main meals in the house.
That's right.
And we brought spices to those people. They didn't know about spices. They didn't know about a whole bunch of stuff. I forget what's the name of that white woman that had the show from Georgia, the one that
Paula
the
Dean.
cooking show, huh?
Paula
Paula
Dean.
Dean,
Paula
right?
Dean.
You sit down there and watch Paula Dean make some dishes, and you know who was in the background? Tell me who was. You know who was in the back? It was a black woman in the background with Paula Dean until she made that famous or infamous remark that people called to get her off the channel. So please stop this soul food stuff. Southern cooking, that's black culture. Southern cooking is black.
Listen, what do you guys
New
think?
Orleans cooking is black.
That's right. What do you think about the comments that are made about Black women being uncooperative, overweight, undesirable by Black men, right? The reason why Black men don't want to marry us is because of those things. What do you guys think about those statements? Because they're made throughout this entire YouTube space.
I'm gonna say it. They're not untrue. If you were to look back at some of my older videos, and I will unlock them now if I have to. But I've said before, single mothers who continue to have babies out of wedlock, I have referred to them as similar to dirty bathwater. And it's not out of I don't understand how the situation comes about or any of those things, but we have to admit there are things that are turn offs that are not something that make you desirable to everyone. And if you are in that situation, you have to admit, hey, listen, I done made some errors in my life that put me in not the best predicament. This man is willing to love me despite all of those things. Let me figure out how I can work with him and love and understand and respect him. Or these people see me for the person that I am. Let me figure out how to love and respect that they see that about me. And that be enough. I think it's fair to say that we have problems. The reason that I don't mind saying it on the internet and I'll take all the slam that comes back is because I used to be 330 pounds. I used to be I wasn't angry like that. I was truly a victim. So I just kind of stayed and waited, which meant that I was sleeping with the enemy for years, concerned about my safety and that of my children. We don't talk about the trueness of those things. It's funny and it draws people in, which is why I'm willing to use it. But while we're having the conversation, we're going to talk about the truth of how we got here. I got at 330 pounds because I forgot to love myself. I cared more about my children and my husband and the shit that was happening. I was grieving because I had just lost my mother. I was in a whole host of situations. If we talk about the truth of it, as long as we're talking about the ickiness of it, that's fair. It's when we only shine a light on the bad parts and we use it to say that all of us are this one thing, to create a stereotype or a negative monolith of Blackness or Black women that I have a problem with.
Absolutely. What do you think, Pat, about that whole?
Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, I don't know these Black women that are being stereotyped on YouTube. I have been in higher education for most of my life, and what Black women I meet are strong mentally, they're sharp, they are the pick of the litter, and they go to the gym, they're aware of their health. So it's a different kind of thing. But let me just say this. All over the world where Black men are, the body type that is preferred is not what you see coming out of Paris and Milan. So again, do we go to the extreme of a Lizzo? No, but Black men love their women to be thick, right? We want some meat on those bones. We do not want a twig. Now, when people talk about Black women being overweight, if we look at something called the body mass index, that can also be a misleading thing, right? A body mass index, is not always the best measure of someone. For example, wet sand would occupy less space than a bucket of dry sand, right? So a woman who is, who is firm, and black women, who walk or whatever, will weigh more on average than another the woman from another culture of the same size, and so she would tend to reflect a higher body mass index when in fact she's probably just the same physically as other people. So for me, it's uh, as a man, I like women who are shapely, proportional. In other words, if you weigh 200 pounds and you're 5'11", 6'1", right? And I come from a family of Amazons. I have a niece who is 6'2", 225, one who's 5'10", 180. You know what I'm saying? Another one who's 6 feet, etc., etc. So for me, that's the norm, right?
Okay,
But so
Go ahead, JP.
yeah.
I just got to ask the question
Mm.
because the up-level approach says that the BMI scale is outdated and not accurate. Where's the new science and math at? I don't know. I had, like I said, I used to be 330 pounds, and in order to lose the weight, I started with gastric bypass surgery. I had
Okay.
to be 100 pounds overweight, and I had to have at least 2 comorbidities, which means I had to have
Mm.
at least 2 things that were going to kill me along with the
Mm,
weight. And my doctors had to lie and say I was an inch shorter for me to fit the BMI requirement. So
mm.
that's why I want to know, where's the new math?
You know, let me say this though. I am 100, like over 160 pounds. And according to BMI, I am extreme, like I'm overweight, right? I am considered overweight. And so I do understand that inaccuracies in the way Black women are viewed as far as our body mass index, because I'm 5'4". And okay, essentially it's like, oh, you 160, that's too big. But if you look at me, I look proportion to my, like my size. Obviously, I can lose a little weight, but am I overweight? If you see me, nobody would be like, she overweight, right?
Well,
But
is it about how you're seen or whether or not you're actually healthy at the
right,
weight that you
that's
are?
what I'm saying. So is body mass index connected to health? Because I'm healthy according to, I go and get tested. I know my cholesterol level. I know all my, I know all of these things. So what makes you unhealthy? Is it when it's uncontrollable, when it's
Yeah.
so much
So
fat that you can't, like, what is the BMI and is it really accurate? I guess.
the BMI is just a measurement. So you're right. There's some room for the thing. The things that we know to definitely affect you though are stress and the weight, because the weight is brought on from the stress, right? So, and then there are the comorbidities. Those are the things that really matter. And Black people, high cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure. Those are the comorbidities, the silent killers,
That's
and they
right.
come with weight and stress.
Okay.
That's why the BMI does matter. I'm not saying that it's the only thing. I don't care about the Fibonacci, blah, blah, blah. I can't even say the damn thing because I think it's unimportant, right? But those things, your stress, your weight, the comorbidities, we don't talk about that. We don't want
No.
to admit to it because if you are, and to be fair, if you're your height and size, the BMI would say that you are considered to be overweight or obese. That puts you in the, do you have high blood pressure? Do you know about your cholesterol? Do you know any of those things? She says that it's outdated. I understand. But stress weight, we know that to be a real thing. We know
Right.
that you carry it in your belly. We know that there's the hanging onto it does so many things to you. So we got to get past the fact that we're bothered by people saying fat, or we're bothered by the fact of those things because it hurts us, and get to the root of it. The
Yeah.
problem is these things do exist, and how do we deal with them?
Yeah,
Well,
because I think a lot of people, and what Pet said was great. Men do like, I'm sorry, somebody. Do you got your
Somebody me.
YouTube on? Okay, mute just for 1 minute, because a lot of and I understand what you were saying, Pat, that a lot of men actually like in our culture, like women who are a little thicker, but we don't want to promote unhealthy behavior, right? We do, like to to JP's point, we do want people to realize that being healthier, watching your weight, being more conscious of your cholesterol, of your diet, and all those things are important, because I think for a lot of years we were able to neglect that because of our circumstance. We had to take whatever we were given, and we weren't able to make choices about food, about, doctors, about healthcare, all of those things. Even healthcare now, we still have some limitations, right? There's still some issues in healthcare that we're still trying to get through. But for the most part, we have evolved, and we can make better decisions about health, and with so much more information out now, that you don't really have to be carrying all this excess weight, and you don't have to be doing some stuff. So I think that it's important for us to change the narrative, maybe not call people fat, but just understand that you can make better decisions, and we should make better decisions, right?
Agreed. Okay,
Yes.
I got one question. Just which is worse, to call someone fat or undisciplined?
What do you guys think? Because I think fat is
Well,
like
let me just, I want to, since
let me welcome
this
Freezy.
culture.
Hi,
this
Freezy.
culture-
I haven't met. I
yeah,
haven't
yeah,
ever. Thank you for
yeah,
coming.
yeah. I'll be brief.
Thank you, Juana.
Yes,
Yeah.
Freezy. He was on other panels, and I loved him. So I'm so happy to hear him and have him come on today. But go ahead. You guys go ahead and answer that question, because that was
I was going to answer the question from a cultural perspective. By the way, when women in Sudan and Mauritania want to get married, they go to fat farms so they can get fat. So in Mauritania, they want their women fat. Sudan want them fat. I'm not saying that, we're talking about culture, right? We're talking about, so that is part of their culture. But fast forward, since we are in the West, let's deal with that. Part of weight also comes from diet. And when you look at what is in the inner cities, for the most part, what do you go when you get in these corner stores? You get what in effect is sugar water.
That's right.
And when you have food stamp, what can you afford? Processed meats. Those are the two single worst things. You think that they want to ban marijuana, but that is what they should be banning. They should be banning soft drinks with all the sugar in it, and they should be banning processed meats. That is the number one cause of all the major illnesses that was just described here. Diabetes, high cholesterol, and let me tell you, we have no idea how destructive diabetes is to the human body. Diabetes attacks all the organs. Diabetes destroys you from inside, and that's what that sugar and all of that stuff does. So I'm wondering if, again, you call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but I wonder if this is not a plan, if this stuff isn't planned.
Right.
So on the one hand, yes,
we need intentional in our community.
But the cost of eating healthy is so expensive that you got to feel that there's a conspiracy against poor people.
It's an obvious choice because it's cheaper. If you got 3 kids and you need to feed them, you're not going to buy a head of lettuce that's only going to last for a couple of days. You're going to buy the frozen maybe chicken nuggets, right? That's going to last you for a week, because then you can feed your kids for a little bit longer. And so obviously it's all constructed to make us make that decision. But what was you about to say, JP? I know you had something to say about the diabetes comment and stuff.
I just realized something that I've been saying recently. Darrell and I were joking about this the other day. The opioid crisis, racism is so real that the opioid crisis missed Black people because of racism. Like, they were so not willing to give Black folks pain medication that we as a result were not caught up in the situation. But it made me think about something. Sugar is the reason for chattel slavery. Sugar is also the thing that's killing capitalism, so to speak. How about that? The diabetes, the high blood pressure, the high cholesterol, it comes from that same sugar that's running the same capitalist society, the same system of oppression and abuse and oppression and abuse. And if we give up on that, then if we walk away from all of those things, then what's left?
I heard you guys talking about BMI and body mass index or whatever, but the last 6 years, I've been like I don't want to say gym freak because I don't go to the gym. I mostly work out at home. But as far as like being in that atmosphere, knowing people that work out, knowing people that don't, it's kind of relative to me. I know some people that you would consider that look overweight, but they're really healthy people.
Yeah.
They eat right, and they probably could do more in the gym than your average person, but they just don't look like they can. So it's kind of relative. I know some people that look like they're in shape, but they're very out of shape, very unhealthy.
Very unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
Underlying issues.
Exactly.
Specifically, like for me, I swear I'm, like I said, I'm over 160 pounds. Mm-hmm. But like when I'm working out over the age of 35, and I'm over 35. I don't want to tell y'all whatever, but I'm over.
No, you're not. Hey, if I'm brave enough to share my age, and you look fantastic,
be proud. Be proud.
Listen, after 35 though, it's harder to lose weight, and they tell you that you lose inches, you can lose other stuff for women. Now, men, y'all, I don't know what y'all can do. Y'all can just go in the gym and just lose all the pounds, and women be in there, we sweating and can't lose nothing. But when you get over a certain age, you lose inches, and you start to see the weight in different ways, or you start to lose, fat and things like that. But it doesn't necessarily affect the weight so much. But I'm healthier than like most people, And so I think I believe what Up Level Approach said with the BMI, especially as it relates to Black women and Black people, because you can see I have friends who like work out all the time and over 160 pounds or maybe over 180 pounds, but you wouldn't be able to see that and say, oh, they're 180 pounds, but that's what it is. That's the truth. And they call us overweight because an average Black woman is 187 pounds. But that study was in 2017. And that was from data from 2015. So who knows what the current weight is now, right? That was a long time ago. I mean, not long time ago, but that was many years ago. But they're still connecting Black women to that status. And we're overweight because of this statistic that came out in 2017.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you think about this culture conversation? And, have you been listening in on like what culture means? And, do you think that Black people are missing this cultural context or reference point?
As far as what, Juana?
So a lot of Black people, they feel like we don't have a culture or a reference to, we talked about music, we talked about cultural influence.
Oh yeah, I can speak on that.
Yeah,
heavily.
But do you think that Black people have culture? Because a lot of Black people be like, we don't have no culture. Our culture was taken away from us in slavery.
I definitely think that our original culture was taken away from us, and but we do have a newfound culture, but it was predicated upon historical events that was placed upon us. That's what I feel. But I do think that our original culture have been taken away from us. Actually, a lot of other cultures have stolen from our culture. So what they I don't want to call any other races out, but we don't want to get into. I don't want to get into all that, but
right. Y'all don't want to get my channel banned.
Yeah, we don't want to do all that.
We'll just say the wonderfuls or whatever we want to call them.
The wonderfuls, exactly. But as far as like other cultures, races, they're actually mimicking the cultures that we used to have. So yeah, it's when we talk about rap music, and me and you was joking about reality TV the other day in the chat or whatever. But I don't look at that as our culture. I just look at that as a result of slavery, history, the things that we Black people have gone through. But yeah, I definitely think that our culture was taken away. And what we call culture now is, I don't think it's culture. I think it's just a result of slavery.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. So Hanifa just spoke to the fact that, Black people believe we don't have any culture, and she thinks that's like sad because we have so much culture, so much history, so much stuff that's ingrained. Maybe the explanations and reasons we do things have been lost, but the fact that culture still exists and there's still some history is just, the disconnect, I guess, between this current culture or this current generation and the past, right? We don't know
Right.
why we do certain things and why we eat soul food. And people don't even know why we eat soul food, right? They know soul food exists. They know it's like something we do on Christmas and Thanksgiving or whatever, but that people don't really know the history behind it and why it's so popular and why we,
Right.
why we had to eat like that. But also it's connected to health and how we eat on a regular. So we trying to see if we can recreate culture, right? Like, is culture, and Hanifa mentioned how culture can be transformed and changed, right? As we know better, we do better. So can we create this new culture now that we have all this pushback from different parts of our culture? Men are complaining about women and how women are uncooperative, how we fat, and men are undesirable and men don't want to marry us, because of that. And so, JP said that to an extent that is true, that Black women are overweight. We have diabetes. We have ailments that we're not really taking seriously. We die quicker. We die of congestional heart failure. People don't talk about those things, right? We always make fun of it like, oh, well, men like a little meat on our bones, but fat leads to other underlying conditions, heart failure, diabetes. Stress also leads to some of these things. So is it true to a certain extent that Black women are undesirable to Black men because of these things? Do you
No.
believe that? Okay.
No, I don't believe that. I believe that actually I believe that throughout the media, people are trying, especially white women, they're trying to mimic Black women's figures with, the cosmetic surgery. We talked about the Kardashians the other day. I mean, just to put it point blank, in my opinion, they're trying to be Black. They're after Black men. They want they're targeting their butts. They want big butts. They're doing everything that they feel like a Black woman would look like. So no, I think that Black women are actually the most desired, from all races. But you're not gonna ever hear a white woman, Asian woman, Arab woman say, yeah, we want to be like Black women. But you don't have to hear them say it. You can just see the visuals. You can see it. If you got common sense, it's all over entertainment. So yeah, I don't think Black women are the least desired. I think they're actually the most desired. But as far as visual wise, but when it says least desire, I think it's targeting more towards the angry Black woman with the attitude or whatnot. But as far as visual wise, I think that Black women are the most desired. That's my opinion. So
let's get into this perception of the angry Black woman, right?
Okay.
Because I know that is resounding amongst men, that they don't want to deal with difficult women who are not agreeable. Okay. And the perception is that most Black women are like that. And so what exactly is it that makes us disagreeable? Okay. How can we actually be more agreeable and I guess appear to be less confrontational, less combative to Black men? Because that is the perception, that Black men have in these YouTube streets. Now, I don't know if that's like the real world, okay? Because I don't hear black men on my block, my daddies and all of them calling us
Right.
difficult. But I hear the men consistently say, we are difficult. We are angry. We are not agreeable. It's hard to partner with us. So where does that come from?
I think it came from, once again, I'm gonna go back to, the roots of slavery. If anybody hasn't read the Willie Lynch letter, I think it's a great read. Everybody should read it. But we've become very individualized, versus other cultures have, kept their collective. So I just feel like if black men and black women looked at our race as more of a collective community, the more we stick together, the more success we'll have, the bigger picture. Everybody's on. If you look at social media, me and my boy was just talking about this the other day. Most of us, of our people, we're looking for individual success so we can shine on the next person. We want to be the best. Everybody individually wants to be the best. I want the best car so I can ride by your house so you can see me in my car so you can see I'm doing better than you. But that's just a backwards mentality,
That's is that ingrained in our culture, or is that something that is a result of us being, I guess, institutionalized racism that's happened that's prevented us from acquiring wealth? Is that what you think?
Well, it's like I think it was ingrained in our culture because we used to be a collective. If we go back in recent history, we just passed the anniversary of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? You look at that whole city, it was a collective. These people were black people thriving in one area. And it was a great example of how one race of people can work together as a collective and be successful. So yeah, that's recent history. So throughout entertainment and music, movies, it's been perpetuated upon black people that individual success is the American way. Capitalism. We bought into capitalism, and I do agree with capitalism to a certain degree.
Okay.
But I also agree. I also agree with a little bit of socialism in the black community as well, because if I become successful and let's just say I become successful and financially, and my economic status and my social status rises to a extreme point, it won't do my community any good if I leave and never come back and share my knowledge, share my resources. But that's what most of us do. We get these NBA contracts, these NFL contracts, and we don't come back to our communities and try to build from our foundation.
You know what an example that I always think about is the Jewish community in the Holocaust, and how after that they all got together and made sure their wealth was like in their community.
Exactly.
They took over entire communities, and obviously we had other challenges with racism and things like that, but the fact that they didn't divide, they actually bonded together. And what's happening with us is you see
the wonderfuls,
the wonderfuls, you see us being divided,
because
go ahead, JP.
They didn't allow the wonderfuls in either. The wonderfuls couldn't infiltrate the way that they can inside of our community, and they do it by using members of the diaspora. They do it by saying, hey, what about you should love us because, well, we loved y'all when it wasn't the right thing to do. There are a host of reasons why this thing continues on in the way that it does. I think that we really need to to speak about that. And I know that it bothers people when I say that there are certain conversations that we need we just really need to be honest. Black Americans need to say, hey, this is a family barbecue thing. If you're not in our nuclear family, we're gonna see you in 6 months at the family reunion.
That's right.
And if people get upset by that, then that's something with them, because the Wonderfuls understand and want us to unite and stick with our own. See, the one thing that we can unite, the fact that we'll unite and then unite a bunch of other folks is the actual problem. Because once, like Pat said, once you see us unite, then everyone else realizes that it's possible for them to unite, because it's always been the hardest for us.
That's right.
So if we can unite, then they're like, oh crap, we can too. And then so on and so on. And now if we all come together and unite against the Wonderfuls are in trouble.
Do you all remember that one year where no Black people shopped on Black Friday and the sales dropped and they got so worried? I mean, it was Black people who shopped, but not like we usually do in droves. Like, we really said, we're not shopping. And they are used to making money on that day. And it literally, like, it woke people up.
It didn't.
Not really.
Let me be honest.
It didn't do anything constructive, like you said. But what I'm saying is, if we could do that consistently for years and years and years and keep wealth in our communities, right? And like literally show that we will not fund these organizations that are against us, we could really be powerful. Because we spend millions of dollars in these industries. So we have money. We have wealth that we can use in our communities. We take it outside of our communities all the time.
All the time.
My husband always, because I always shop within our community. He doesn't like me to, because he's like, it's not safe. But I refuse to go anywhere else, because I'm like, no, because then the stores are gonna look like crap, and like all the money, and like it's not gonna be no gas stations, nothing in my own community. I just pick the right times. I go in the morning. I do things that's to make sure that I'm like not in the worst situation, but I want to keep the wealth in my community. And I always tell him that, like, we need to shop in our community. That's why we don't have nothing around here. So I think that it's just power. And I saw that, I was like, that's super powerful.
That was the mistake.
Yeah.
That was the one mistake that we didn't make. And I put out a video, I think it was in 2020, because that was 2019. And so then in 20, I was like, all right, well, if you're going to do the whole blackout thing, then when you take your money out, put it into Black businesses, continue to put it into Black businesses, put it into Black folks who are willing to go back to their community and start internship programs where they're willing to go and live and work for next to nothing, as long as you can give some investment into them. Do that. Take your money out of the system and keep it out. The problem was we took it out for a day. We take it out for 2 days. But then we go back full force, because now we're hungry and now we need clothes and now we didn't plan for a damn thing. We just decided not to spend our money. But if we organize and we plan and we get real about the shit, we can start to take back our money, put it into us. We can put it into one city at a time and steal back an entire. You ain't got to give me the land you told me you was going to give me 400 years ago. I done stopped asking. I done stopped marching. I done stopped singing. I'm taking the shit. You come take it from me.
Yeah. I mean, we have something in almost every market. Like, I'm drinking Black Girl Magic wine from the McBride sisters. Like, y'all can go buy their wine. Y'all don't even have to ever buy any other wine they have. And it's other Black people who have wine. But I'm just saying that we don't know everything that's available to us. And so we don't know how to support it and how to, obviously Walmart is more accessible. It's down, it's down the street, right? So it's like, oh man, I need some tissue. I'm just going to go there. We don't want to research and have to plan ahead and do all those things until we can get to a place that we can be mainstream, though. That's what you have to do to support these other entities so that we can be powerful. Right.
When you think about Black people and you just sit back and look at the big portrait of Black people, we think about the NBA, the NFL, acting, music, like the Bible says, we truly are the salt of the earth. So it's scary to think if this group of people would actually come together intellectually, pull together their resources, and start getting busy. So it forces you to think that the powers that be, the wonderfuls, know this.
Right.
So they actually constructed people that look like us, that look like our leaders, aka the Al Sharptons, aka,
Jesse Jackson.
exactly. These guys, these people were appointed by the wonderfuls, because the wonderfuls know we can't afford for these people um to actually come back to their culture, to actually know their identity. So there's a lot of big money being spent to keep us blinded. And this is the information I feel like that needs to get out more.
Right.
We're so blindsided, and we're getting thrown I'm trying to think of the right word, but we're getting thrown distractions every day.
Yeah.
Everyday distractions.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why I cut my cable off. I don't really listen to radio. I cut my cable off. I do a lot of reading now, information, and it's sad, the famous quote.
It's programming. That's what you're saying.
It's programming.
What they're doing is programming us every day. And we don't know, because people don't know how marketing works. They think that, oh, that doesn't affect me. But there is studies that show you that even 5-second glimpses of McDonald's while you're in a movie theater can influence your decision to buy McDonald's after you leave. Like, people have shown the impact that even a glimpse of a marketing campaign can have on individuals. So why do you think that watching certain things don't have an impact on how you view Black Americans, especially if you see us on reality TV shows fighting and arguing and we don't get along and Black men ain't this and women ain't that. Like, that's what you see.
Right.
So now you're in YouTube and you see Black men who are overly criticizing Black women, or you see Black women who are encouraging other Black women to separate from Black men, right? Be independent.
And see, that's why,
whatever. So we see those things happening in these spaces. So go ahead, Freezy.
And, I follow the manosphere, but that's why I don't agree with everything that the manosphere offers, because they don't actually get to the root of the situation. They do a lot of blaming, pointing fingers at the Black woman. The Black man isn't doing enough. The Black woman, she's mad, she's angry, she's, that's why we're going to other races and stuff like that. To me, it's just a bunch of nonsense, because, they're not getting to the root. This is a great conversation. That's why I put in the chat, this is a great conversation, because we need more conversations like this.
Freezy, let me let JP have a last statement, because thank you so much for coming, JP. This is going to be a series of creating culture. Okay, this is just the start of the conversation. I want us to next time come with like, okay, this is what we want to do. This is how we want culture to be represented. This is like the things that we want to implement or bring back, or we want people to understand the cultural context to it. So we're going to start like bringing some gems for everybody, so they know like, this is Black culture. This is what it means. This is why you should do it in your home. This is what we stand on. So JP, thank you so much for blessing my panel. But go ahead.
Dope.
Leave us with your final thoughts and your final words, and let us know where we can follow you as well, JP.
Thank you all so much for that. Freezy, you're new to me, but Pet Charles, Juana, I done seen y'all around the way, even over there on the other networks. I'm just a real quiet one. As you can see, I come with a whole lot of passion and heart. I'm real about mine. You can find me on the channel. It's JP, the Aspiring Matriarch. I'm also on all of the social media platforms, because I know that it's not just a YouTube business. It's a movement. Yeah. And at the end of the day, y'all, it's about being able to love one another. I came into this YouTube space because I saw what it will become, but I've got young Black sons and I wanted to be able to talk to them. I ended up in the manosphere and I was like, God, well, that's wrong. And then I looked in the divestor space and I was like, God, well, that's wrong. So I decided that I just had to run my mouth in the middle until some people showed up. And here y'all are showing up and showing out. And I think that you guys are amazing. So I'll be around. I am not consistent at all because I am a little disabled lady who has a man who loves me and doesn't make me work very hard. So I do my best, but I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I will stop in as often as I can, Juana. I'm glad that you're having a conversation. Freezy, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Pet Charles, thank you for talking to me tonight. Y'all keep your spirit up, and I will see you in the streets.
Bye, honey. Love you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to address something.
Go ahead,
A lot of stuff that was said.
I was gonna say, I know you got some stuff.
A lot of stuff was said. I can be controversial. I don't try sometimes, but it happens.
Well, you know what?
Actually, one of the worst things that happened to Black America was the Civil Rights Movement. That might sound shocking.
Talk about
All right. Okay.
Okay. Here's everybody here heard about the Brown versus Board of Education, right?
Yeah.
That famous case that Thurgood Marshall and I can't remember her name. Is it Constance Baker Motley? Was a Black female lawyer who, by the way, parents are from the Caribbean. Now that's another story that FBA got to deal with. But that case started out, I think, in South Carolina. And here's what the Black people wanted, right? The Black people wanted the Black schools to get the same resources as the white school. Let me repeat what it said. It said, under the Equal Protection Act of the United States Constitution, 14th Amendment, right? Whatever you give the white schools, we want the same thing. That is what the Black people requested. The NAACP hijacked the movement and turned it into integration, right? That is since most people, the highest award for the NAACP is not the W.E.B. Du Bois Award. It's called the Spingarn Award, named after a Jewish man, Joel Spingarn. Okay. That's the highest award for an organization that purportedly litigates on behalf of Black people, right? And I leave you, that speaks for itself. Listen to Malcolm X's speech on the ballot or the bullet, and he tells you what happened on the infamous March on Washington. I call it infamous, people call it famous. That was just as how the Black Lives Matter, in fact, Black Lives Matter movement is a clinic on what happened in that war on Washington. Black Lives Matter movement was a grassroots movement response to police killing of young Black males in seemingly, situations where they should not have been killed. The March on Washington was a bunch of Black people sick and tired of Jim Crow laws or whatever, and they planned to march on Washington. This is Malcolm X speaking, because he was supposed to be part of it and he chose not to be for other reasons. That's what he said in his video, and I think he's a man of integrity, so I believe what he says, right? JFK learned that this march was going to happen, and he called in Martin Luther King and J. Philip Randolph, who was head of the major Black union, right? And asked them if they had anything to do with it, and they said no, right? And if you remember the one, I'm going to come back to this, but I want to just interject here with my favorite Martin Luther King speech that may not be other people's favorite. The last speech he gave before he was killed. We're coming to get our check. Remember that speech? Why don't they keep playing that day after day in Black History Month? But that's another story. So what happened is JFK said, oh my God, these angry Negroes are coming up in here and they're going to tear some shit up. So let's run and get a group of people and put them in front of the march. We're going to take this white guy called Walter Reuther. We're going to turn it into an everybody march, which means that if it's for everybody, then it's nothing for anybody.
Right.
And so the march became, what came out of the march? I have a dream speech, really? Black people came to make demands for a real change, for stop being lynched, stop being Jim Crow segregated, and you elevate somebody who had a dream, we could hold that thought. We go to South Africa, right? Because there's a model.
Okay.
We got apartheid. And who comes out of that? A guy in prison for 27 years. That's who is negotiating on behalf of the free black people.
Mm.
And what has changed, to the best of your knowledge? So what has changed there for the black people, for the majority of black people, to the best of your knowledge?
Nothing.
Right. So in other words, until we pick our own leader, you know who your true leader is? Your true leader is the one that the enemy hates. The minute the enemy picks your leader or say, I like this guy, I want this guy to negotiate with you, that is a strong signal that that is not your leader. And until we come to that realization, until we pick them organically, that is why Black Lives Matter was dropped on us. Look, I want to pick my words because I mean, you know, I get intense now. I'm emotional about this, and
hey, keep going, keep going.
But the Black Lives Matter movement organization, as we now know it, we saw how those people bought property, etc. Right?
Yes.
Now you got the perversity of that movement is you got a bunch of people who are antithetical to black males who made millions of dollars off of the death of black males.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have learned nothing. That's what I'm saying about the civil rights movement. We don't have, okay, what we should be doing now, they say in times of peace, you prepare for war. What we should be doing now is building organization for when the next one get killed. You know, we know they're gonna shoot and kill another one. We know that. That has been going on since what? Forever. I remember Johnny Cochran talking about how he got his first case. His first case was a black guy from the South, I think Alabama, who was a pregnant wife, and he put out, because the culture back then was if your wife is pregnant and you can't get an ambulance to take her to the hospital, you put a white flag on your car, right? And it was okay for you to violate the speed limit. So he comes to LA, does the same thing. The police siren comes and he's taking his wife to the hospital and they shot and killed him, right? He got killed.
Oh my goodness.
Then we had the Rodney King stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the first cases that got caught on camera.
Right.
And what did they do? They say Rodney King was in charge of the situation. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, he should have complied. He should have complied. Right. He should have.
So we know so here we are on what's the day? What's the day? January 6th. I usually lose sight of day and date. But
yeah, it's
we're in 2021, right?
Yep.
So are we making this prediction?
No, 2022.
I'm not right. I'm right. I'm not Nostradamus. We're making this prediction. Another black male in a seemingly non-threatening situation is going to be killed.
That's right.
What organization and movement do we have in place so that when that event happens, there will not be an outside force that come in and usurp that movement and send it into a direction that is against the wishes of the community?
Nobody. No, nothing.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying.
We don't have nothing in place.
If when you don't stand for anything, then you fall for anything.
When it happened again, we just gonna march and tell up stuff.
That's what I'm saying. That it cannot be.
Have nothing else.
In other words, nobody's gonna make change. But you know what? You know who one of my favorite heroes are is Ho Chi Minh. And as you guys know, the average Vietnamese is what? Probably about 5 feet, 5'2". I'll never forget the first time I went in Japan. I went to northern Japan in a place called Hokkaido. And I'm really tall. I'm almost 6'8", 270 pounds, right?
Oh wow, you 6'8".
And I came off the plane, and I said, but wait a minute, who are these people that one time had the world's second largest economy in the 80s?
Right.
They're reaching me by my elbow? How the hell, So I started to pay attention to the Japanese people while I was there. And I come to find out that the Japanese people are not indigenous, because when I went, I noticed they had something called the indigenous people of Japan. The indigenous people of Japan are called the Ainu people. They're related to people we call Native Americans, and they're part of Russia. Russia and Japan shares a border. Right. That's why many European people look with a jaundiced eye sometimes towards Russian. Russian people are not all That's another story altogether. But I
Hey,
noticed that
Pat
when I
Charles,
went
can
to
I ask you
when I,
something?
yeah.
Does that fall in line with Black Asiatics as well? Or
Oh, I don't know. I think the black, I don't know. I'm not familiar. I heard the term
okay,
of black Asiatic. But we do know that, for example, some of the original people from India are black, African-looking people. They're still there in those islands of India. So, and India is southern part of Southern Asia. The indigenous people of the Philippines are black. And let's use some words. Sometimes the words tell us. Melanesia. That's the Greek for what? Islands of the Black. That's in the South Pacific. The indigenous people of Taiwan are not Chinese. They are black people as well. So we have been, boy, you guys gotta make me. You see, I have a problem when people commit genocide against my people and we respond by marching and singing. But let me tell you why. So that brings me into why Ho Chi Minh is my favorite hero. Ho Chi Minh said to America, for every 10 of us you kill, we will kill one of you and we will win. Now, what does that say to the enemy? That says to the enemy, we are willing to take a hit. We're going to take a hit. We're going to suffer heavy losses, and we're coming at you with everything we got, and we're not going to surrender. You're in a war of attrition, and when the dust is cleared, only one of us, none of us are going to be left standing. It turns out that Ho Chi Minh paid a higher price. It was more like 1 in 20. To this day, America is still crying over the Vietnam and Vietnam veterans, right? America lost maybe 60,000 people in that war. The Vietnamese lost over 1 million. When America started dropping bombs on the Vietnamese, they dug holes and went underground. They built underground cities. They will not surrender. There's not a black nation in history that has ever responded like that against any non-blacks invading them. Not in history. We sit around and piss and moan and cry because we want people to feel sorry for us and give us stuff. If we launch an all-out frontal attack, suicide attack, I'm running up. Don't threaten me, man. I'm going to put 600 pounds of dynamite on my back and run up in your house. F that. But that comes from what? That comes from culture and religion. The people, religion teaches them that. That's innate. And their culture came from a survival culture. No one has ever successfully occupied Vietnam in history. They have repelled every single invading force. And if you look at them, they're meek-looking people, smiling, docile. They're not physically strong, right? In fact, one of the things that I learned in my travels around the world is black males in particular are the most physically strong specimen on the planet. And yes, I'm going to go into eugenics, and some people might call it racism if you wish. What I want you to do is pay attention to all the biracial athletes in football, basketball, or track and field. And I guarantee you that 99% of them will have a black father. All I want you to do is, once again, name me one of them who has a white father and a non-white mother. See where the genetic, and you think other women that don't know this? Think they're not noticing?
exactly.
So, so people, sometimes when you create chaos among people, that's a great thing because you could come in and snap up some great bargains for next to nothing.
Right.
So if you got a people thinking that they're less than, with low self-esteem, feeling that they're lesser than other people, and you keep cultivating that amongst them, you're able to walk in amongst them and walk out with diamonds and literally, that's what they're doing in Africa, isn't that right? That's what they're doing in Africa.
Yeah, it works every time. It works.
So we are just a microcosm of a bigger problem. So we have so much different things that we need to do. But I think the first thing we need to do is realize that we have to teach our own selves. We have to sometimes go into the quiet of our minds. Sometimes we got to turn the TV off, turn everything off, and just do some meditation. Just sit down, see if you could find yourself in a room someplace where there's absolutely no noise whatsoever. Okay. And just say, you know what? I'm going to try not to think about nothing. Just not to think about nothing. Just give my mind total peace, bring it to rest, and then sit back and look at stuff. sit back and look at the animal kingdom, look at the animal world, and see what we can learn from them. I didn't realize that until I was living in a what was called a granny flat when I was a student, right? And one night I came in, there was this black cat that scared me, scared me to come in this flat. And I look at him and he looked at me, and I say, I don't want to scare him. I wonder what, So I didn't pay any attention to him and I moved on. And one day I cooked some fish and I left the bone or something in the sink. I didn't get a chance to wash it. And I came in and saw this cat eating the fish bone and I got scared to death. I said, oh my God, this cat is going to get this fish bone caught in his throat and the owner of this property is going to think I did something to the cat. Come to find out that's not true at all. The cat will eat that with no problem. Anyway, so I wondered why this male cat sat around in this flat sleeping all day. You know what I mean? Just lazy and not doing anything. But as soon as the sun goes down, this cat became possessed. They start jumping up at the window, start looking out. And in the middle of the night, I hear, the cat's always fighting. And next day I come back and the cat had I didn't know at the time, I thought it was ticks on the cat's body, right? It turned out that it was scratches from fighting. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, do you know what that cat was doing?
Tell me, because
that male cat was going out and protecting a territory for the female cats to hunt in. What he was doing was beating off and fighting off other males from coming to have sex with those females.
Nice.
That was his major role, protecting the female who was going to bear his kittens and kids and laying his ass life on the line. So in the day, he was preserving his energy because he's fighting all night. And until another beta cat beats him off, right? That's what he'll be doing.
Well, the manosphere.
That's what our jobs are as men. Our job, we are not built to fight women. Yes. Like I told you, I'm 6'8", 270. I'm down now, right? I used to date a woman who was about 5'2" or 5'3", and she ran. The first time she attacked me to try to hit me, I was so shocked I ran. I said, because obviously she knew I could take her out, so she must be signaling to me that she's so angry over what this stuff is that she don't even care. But if a guy did that, in fact, the minute a man steps in the room, the hair on my skin, raised because I'm ready to fight, right? A female attacks me and I laugh, I run because I'm not built to fight females. So when I hear all this crazy stuff about the black women and they're combative and stuff like that, I laugh once again because I haven't met a black woman yet that could compare to my mother. And I'm not one of them guys, and I'm not talking about cooking and stuff like that. My mother was what they call a red bone. She was like about 5'10" and weighed about 170 pounds of muscle. Up until I was 16 or 17 years old, my mother was physically stronger than me.
Nice.
And my mother never cried. My mother was tough and strong. If my mother saw a snake in the yard, she went in immediately and got a stick or a machete and killed it. Again, so I'm not a good person to talk about this.
I had a bird in my garage and I was scared. I was like, I ain't going nowhere. I'm not going to touch it.
What would you do if you saw a tarantula spider on your wall? Or you saw what they call a wood slave, these crazy looking lizards that kind of occupy. If you live in a tropical country, you'll really have a different attitude towards animals because spiders will be everywhere. In fact, scorpions will be in your house. That's if you go in places like Texas and other places in the Caribbean and places like that. That's what they do in tropical places. Insects and stuff will come in your home, and you could fumigate it and try to use insecticide and stuff like that. They'll still come in. Bats will fly in your home in the middle of the night. It is what it is.
I totally agree with you. If we can shift the conversation back to integration, when you took off with integration, I totally agree with you. They say it's a famous quote, and I think they was directing it to black people. But if you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in a book. So you mentioned Martin Luther King and integration. A lot of people don't know Martin Luther King did represent nonviolence and nonviolent movement,
Yeah.
but if you dig deep into research of Martin Luther King used to have armed men outside of his house
They're called the
with
deacons for
guns.
the defense. Deacons for the
Exactly.
defense.
So how he got to nonviolence was there was a man called Bayard Rustin, and he was a well-known homosexual, black homosexual, but he brought this notion of nonviolence to Martin Luther King and let him know, hey, your movement you're not going to become a household name, and your movement is not going to grow unless you make it nonviolent. So Martin Luther King listened to him, and he bought into the concept of nonviolence. And actually, when we march and protest, it's not because of Martin Luther King's influence, it's because of Bayard Rustin's influence. A lot of people don't know that.
I wish you didn't bring up Bayard Washington's name, but because I didn't like the fact that he got busted in the car with another.
We ain't gonna talk about that,
with a white man, but that's. But I'm glad that you brought him because it reminds me.
Tell it like it is, Ted. Tell it like it is.
Oh my God!
You weren't gonna talk about that, Freezy, huh? You brought
James Baldwin. It also brings me back with James Baldwin, Angela. What's her name with the big afro? Her name escapes me now. I should know what you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Back then, people did not make their sexuality part of the movement. You see, that is your sexuality.
Exactly.
Is personal. I don't give a damn whether you're gay or trans. That is your private business because I'm not coming in the bedroom to do anything with you. What we see happening in 2021, at least what I see, let me don't say we, let me talk about me, is I see a bunch of people that are usurping Black organizations by turning it into gender-based organizations because it's a cheap shot. In other words, they don't have to build anything. They can take something that was already built and turn it into something that it wasn't intended for. Classic case in point. You can't believe how outraged. If I had children, I would never let them see that movie made about Harriet Tubman. They'll never see Madam C.J. Walker. These are, Steven Spielberg will never, even though we know that Jews collaborated with the Nazis, Steven Spielberg will never make that movie. We don't have any respect for nothing. We don't respect any ancestors. And you know who said that? The same guy we call racist who used to be the owner of the Sacramento Kings, Melvin Tukowitz or whatever his name is. I forget what they call him.
Why don't you think those are good movies for people to watch?
How are you going to sit there and make a movie about the woman who was called Black Moses, and in the movie create a Black male character who was a slave catcher, who was abusing Black women to the point where the white male slave owner was protective of her? And you're going to put that out there as a legacy for your children to watch? Not you. I'm not saying that personally.
No, yeah.
Because right now in this current generation, we are up in arms and we're going to, but those films are going to be archived. And 20 years from now, right? Some young, unsuspecting 10-year-old child will watch that stuff and it will call the Harriet Tubman biopic. And they will believe that BS. You're going to sit up there and talk about Madam C.J. Walker, right? And her daughter being whatever. Again, I don't want to, like I said, I got to be pick my, but you know what I'm talking about, right? All of these, even if it was true, let's say it was true. Why is that a central theme in the movie? Any more than the fact that she may have, had sex with a man. Why is that? Because that's how she was able to produce the daughter, right? I mean, so I'm seeing this kind of pattern to the point where I made a comment to a friend of mine that, you know what, we again has to have some leadership criteria on, for us and say, you know what, man, here's what this organization is about.
Yeah.
We are about building, we are about culture, and anything else that does not fit that narrow definition, the minute you raise it as a leader, you're out, you're gone. That's it. Zero tolerance.
That's that cancel culture that I'm talking
about. Well, guess what? Let's look at this. What is the battle cry of the state of Israel? Somebody brought up the Jewish people and the Holocaust.
Me.
By the way, The battle cry of the state of Israel is never again. Why isn't that our battle cry?
Mm.
They said never again. And if you believe the narrative, they went in. By the way, do you know that the state of Israel was supposed to be built in Uganda? Bet you most people don't know that. But they did portray Idi Amin as a buffoon, right? In the raid on Entebbe. Why do you think they were there, right? So you got to figure out, and when we use words about the Jews, I remember the great Arab leader of Egypt, his name was Nasser. I was reading where Nasser made a statement. He said the Jews left black and came back white, and I figured that was just him hurling insults at them. They have their issues going on there in the Middle East. And it wasn't until many, many years when I was reading, and you'll be shocked to learn where the original Jews came from. No, they are not the Falasha Jews of Ethiopia. The original Jews were called Beta Israel from the place we now call Sudan. That's who the Jews in the Bible are talking about. They're not talking about those folks in Ethiopia.
Right.
But because Sudan has become Islamized, to the point where Christianity has been as a smaller religion, we don't even think about that.
So Pat, are you saying the original Jews were people of color and they migrated from Jerusalem to Africa?
I'm telling you what Nasser said, right? I'm telling you what the people from the region
President
said.
Nasser from Egypt. Yes,
right.
From Egypt. Right.
He's late. And I remember listening to a speech when they had the Camp David Accord, when Jimmy Carter brought in the guy who Lou Gossett played as the president of Egypt, the Nubian guy, I forget his name now, Anwar Sadat. He and Menachem Begin were at the White House, and Menachem Begin watched this speech. Menachem Begin went first. And he said, what a glorious day it is, the state of Israel coming together in peace with Egypt. And we were slave, we didn't, the greatest day, we were once slave in Egypt and blah, 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 right? That's the story we are told, biblical story, that the Jews were enslaved in Egypt. The very first words out of Anwar Sadat's mouth, the very first word out of Anwar Sadat's mouth when he came to speak, he said, there's no recorded history in Egypt that we ever enslaved Jews. I was so shocked that stuck in my mind since that day. And I kept on the vigil to see if I could ever find support for that statement. Because, I grew up exposed to Christianity, right? And that's what we were always taught. Come to find out that when we read the original script from the Egyptians, what they put in their hieroglyphics, here's what the Egyptians wrote. Well, I guess black Egyptians at the time. They wrote that they were under constant attack from Assyrians and other people, who the people we now call Syria, for example, might be like those people, right? They're always attacking Egypt for its wealth because, there are a lot of gold in Nubia and places like that. And one day they finally breached, and they came in and they ransacked the kingdom, and some of the black people had to flee. And what the pharaohs did is they called for all the black peoples of North Africa to unite to expel those people. And the route that they took when they were expelled is the route that we are now taught, where Moses went through to part the Red Sea. In other words, they took that story where they attacked ancient Egypt, looted, raped, and pillaged the people. And when they got expelled, they turned that into them were being slaves, and that they, and that type of stuff.
See,
that is what's in the hieroglyphics, not me speaking.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the thing. A lot of times what happens in our culture is people don't know those reference points and they don't understand that. And so they're trying to start from this, like where we are now currently in society, right? We can get lost in the history of what's going on, how this came about and things like that. But we need to understand that, I don't know somebody got an echo. Let me mute and see. Yeah, somebody. Okay. We need to understand that people are listening in and they're just hearing what we're talking about now in this current space. They're hearing us talk about Black people, how we're divided, how Black women are uncooperative, how Black men are not attracted to us, how they're not marrying us, and how they're leaving us to be single mothers. And we've kind of taken on this masculine energy, and now they're looking at it as a divide between the genders, right? So we have this huge divide, and that's their reference point. They don't know about the history of where the evolution of how we became Black people and how we moved to this country. And they don't know all of that, right?
Right.
We want to talk to those people who really are just starting from this manosphere space and hearing what men are demanding of us, what a men are demanding, or what some women are not. Some women are in the manosphere space, and what they do is they reinforce what the men say about women. As far as masculine, you're masculine, women are uncooperative. They reinforce those same ideas, but in a different way. But yes, so we're in this space. People believe that there's a gender war, that Black people are divided more than ever. And so we need to start thinking of ways to help us form unions and get back in a cohesive unit like we were, right? When we saw how it operated and it was successful, and we modeled that, and we tried to model that. Somehow it's gotten lost between when we used to model that cohesive unit of togetherness and unity, and it's gotten lost down the line. And now people are individual, like you said, individualism is taking over, capitalism is taking over, and people believe that you don't need to unite with your community in order to be successful. People believe that you can do it on your own and you can separate, essentially.
You know what? You made an excellent point, Tawana. And what Pet Charles was saying is actually needed. People need to know these jewels of information.
Yep.
But also, when we're talking about your average person of color, how we're going to reach them initially. If we flooded our people with this type of information in the beginning, we're going to lose their attention really fast.
Yes.
So you kind of have to generalize and dumb it down for them in the beginning. So I have so much to say. Pet Charles brought up great, excellent points. But yeah. I want to go back to the I Have a Dream speech in the March on Washington. Everybody should read the autobiography of Malcolm X. If you don't read one book in your life as a Black person, you should read that book.
I love that one. That's one of my favorites.
Exactly. And in that book, Malcolm X, if I can remember correctly, he said the main reason why he didn't participate on the March on Washington, because he knew it wasn't operated and ran solely by Black people. The signs that were printed that people were holding up, they were, produced by the, American government, by the Wonderfuls. We're going to go back to the Wonderfuls. They produced these signs. We're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement. This is a huge, profitable movement that's being capitalized by George Soros, which is another wonderful.
Hey, Mr. Hey, information man. I just wanted to shout him out. Hey. Go ahead, Freebie.
So this is one of the reasons. Like I said, I don't agree with everything in the manosphere.
Right.
But what made me gravitate to the manosphere was bringing the man back to his rightful place. So we know throughout history, if a nation of people are going to lead start a revolt, start a movement, revolution throughout history, generally speaking, the revolution is first led by men in the forefront. I mean, this is just factual information.
Right.
So if we know that, genuinely speaking, if we know that, just like the Bible says, and I got a question for you, Tawana. I always wanted to ask you this question, but I'm gonna keep going.
Go ahead.
We know that the Bible says, this is what gravitated me to the manosphere. How can a man lead a nation of people if he can't first rule his own household? This is the qualification for a man leading a movement, leading a nation of people. If you can't lead your own household, if we know that you're like the manosphere says, simp, if you're quote unquote simp in your house, you're not qualified to be a leader of us. We got to know that you're capable of ruling your own household. So this is what gravitated me to the manosphere. We got to bring men to their rightful place. And I didn't think that the manosphere was trying to suppress women in general. I just felt like it was trying to encourage the man, especially the black man, to come back into his rightful position.
Right. Right.
So my question to you, Tawana, is you've been on certain panels in the past. We're not gonna call any names.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And you've conversed with different panelists.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've seen these videos and these conversations that you and this discourse you've had with different people.
Yeah.
And some people don't believe that we should dwell on historical facts, slavery and information, the stuff that that Pet Charles was bringing out.
Right.
Some people just they don't believe in a collective, preserving your community, quote unquote. I don't go by color. I go by the content of your character.
Yes.
I get it. I go by the content of somebody's character, but first in my community. First in my community, this is what we're missing. So the question is to you, when this was told to you, I know you remember, I know you know what I'm talking about. But
tell me what you're talking.
You know who I'm talking about.
No, but go ahead. I mean, tell me the question. So
when you was having this conversation,
okay,
and I could see the frustration in your voice when you was going back and forth at the time. How are you thinking of this person that was saying this to you, and how do you feel like they got that way? We know, there are people, black people, when they get a certain economic status, or they portray like they have this economic status, social status, coming to the a certain amount of money or whatever, they just it's almost like they disassociate themselves from their cultural and racial identity.
Right.
So I just wanted to know what was your frustration, and how were you viewing the person that was talking to you? How did you feel like they got to that point?
Yeah. Well, let me say this first. I want to welcome JT.
Okay.
Hi, JT.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, man?
JT,
I was waiting to get a little introduced in, but
sorry.
Freezer was he was venting over there, Well, not venting, speaking his knowledge,
speaking some good truths and information, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. He shared my video, and I support him. And that man be spitting some knowledge. If you're not following the Information Man show, please follow him. That man speaks truths. I'm always in the comments. I don't always make it to the top because it's always thousands of people in his comments. He probably don't even see me. But this one time I was able to say something and he saw me. So I do appreciate his content. Thank you so much for supporting me. And so to answer your question, Freezy, I am so used to Black people who have assimilated or conformed that I am not really shocked at that response, because I do feel like that some Black people who become successful or rise to a certain level kind of believe that we are making excuses and that, you know, challenges that we are saying exist doesn't really exist. I mean,
Right.
obviously, there's something that happens when you rise to a certain level of success that kind of blinds you to some of the institutionalized things that happen to our culture. And so I don't ever want to get to a place where I feel like I'm so educated and I have risen to a level of success that I don't see blatant racism or even covert or racism that happens. But there are some people who don't see it, right? Because they have been able to conform, deny their Blackness, and move into a level of success that have allowed them to get into a different pay grade, right? And so they essentially feel like they're being treated as equal in those spaces. They have a hard time connecting with us who still see issues in the system, right? Because they're like, well, you've made it, so why are you still picking apart the system? But we still understand that it's beyond us, right? Like I can be individually successful and
Right.
whatever, but I do understand how every politics work and bureaucracies, and I understand that there's still things that happen underlying that affect us on a day-to-day basis. But there's a lot of people in these spaces that believe it, that it's not real, right? That racism is, we're not impacted by that anymore, right? That was something that our ancestors went through, and it's something that we're still holding on to, and that it's something that is not really relevant for us today. And that's something that I heard multiple times in the manosphere space.
And I wanted to talk about it because it makes me angry, right? It doesn't take too much to see that Black people are on the bottom of the totem pole economically. I mean, let's just tell it like it is. But when you get to a certain status, you don't want to associate yourself with being on the bottom. You don't want to admit that you are part of a social, economic, racial group that's on the bottom of the totem pole. It's facts. So if we recognize that, the only thing left to do now is to deal with it. You gotta deal with that. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's almost like an ego thing. You don't want to you want to disassociate yourself from that when you reach a certain status. You don't want to be known as the low level a part of the low level group of people.
Right.
You don't want to be known as that. I get it. You work so hard to raise your social status, economic status. You want to leave all that behind. But what they fail to realize, you can't leave it behind, because they're going to attach you with everybody else that looks like you. At some point in time,
Black people, we're racialized, and I don't know if people understand that, but when one Black woman does something, they think we all
exactly
do it. And the same with Black men. When one Black man is violent, all Black men is violent. When one Black man don't take care of his kids, y'all all don't take care of your kids. It's just what happens in society. So if they don't see that we're generalized and racialized throughout this entire nation, I don't know what society they living in, but it's even Black people who take ownership of other Black people's behavior. Like, she's embarrassing us. I'm like, we generalize ourselves, not even just the media and everyone else, but we also take on some of those generalizations. Go ahead, JT, because I know you're
I
jumping in.
think I wanted to comment what Freezy said. I think black people as a whole, like he said, like when somebody, like one person made it, it feel like I made it. And everybody else got to get it how they live and stuff like that. And really, that's what it means: get it how you live. The thing about to me about racism and with other color people, with race people, you they might have so much hatred to keep the black people at the bottom, and they're okay with that. They'd rather help somebody else out to keep them ahead, so they'll still always be ahead
Yeah.
at the top. So when black people get up there to the top, they feel like I made it myself. Why I gotta help him out? Why I gotta help them out and stuff like that?
Mm.
They gotta get it how I got it, and
Oh, that's a
and
good
I
point.
feel like they had this they had this thing on I think it was on social media when it was a race, and I don't know if y'all saw it before, but it was a bunch of kids and they all started on the same line, right? But the man start calling out stuff. I forgot. Oh, he made everybody stay on the line that had some hardship, struggle, one parent home. What was crazy when they look back, all the kids that walked ahead didn't go through this adversity. And when they look back, it was most majority of the white people that when the white kids turned around, none of the black kids left the line.
Right.
So
I remember
what I'm
that.
saying, you saw that before?
Yeah, I seen it.
Nice.
Right, and the man was true though. Like that's how life is. They got a head start and stuff like that. But none of us don't leave that line because we just stuck in our ways as people. And sometimes some people do need a push, need help, need guidance, need to be taught something different. But I just think black people are entitlement. They I ain't gonna say always selfish. You got selfish people all over around the world, but they do feel like if I made it, the other person gotta get it themselves.
It's that
Especially
idea of individualism, right?
right,
Like
right,
Right.
right,
we have to we have been deconstructed to the point where we don't feel like being a unit is helpful to us, right? Like denying your blackness in whatever way you can deny it is will probably put you in a better position in life than it would
right.
to be together and like actually join forces with other black people, because that brings more attention to you and therefore makes you more of a target, right? You like to stay under the radar. So when you make it individually, you mind your own business. You don't want to share with anybody. You feel like I just want to stay under the radar and I really don't want to talk about it, because I think that we have this idea that
But can you get mad at those people that sometimes could like?
yeah.
I feel like if you be honest with you, where I grew up, I feel like, I don't know, should I help other people or extend my hand out? Or they gonna try to rob me? Or they don't come at it with no positive mindset with you. It come off as jealousy, hatred,
Mm.
or something like that. So some people do be want to help people, especially like you help your family and all that and stuff like that. You don't really want to help a stranger you really don't know at that level. But can you
That's a,
get mad
that's
at
a good,
certain
that's
people?
a good point. Like, what do you guys say to that? Because I think sometimes we try to share and we want to bring these resources to our community, but it can also um, be dangerous. You know,
Exactly. Like I mean, like
what?
in it's different ways. Like if I'm coaching, right, and I'm giving back to the community, I'm trying to coach, develop all the kids, not just my kids. But I run into that a lot in a lot of black community with sports. I used to argue with the parents, and I'm like, I'm out here trying to help your kid, develop, get better and stuff like that. But I'm arguing back and forth with you on the sideline, like that's the issue that you have with different, parents, your own
Right,
people
right.
and stuff like that. They just letting everything um they anger, their issues, whatever they let that get in the way of you developing the kids and stuff like that. So what
Mm.
do you say in different situations? Because people can help in different situations. It always had to be a financial thing. You could get back to the community different ways.
JT bring up some good points because we want to be cohesive and unite, but that's not everybody's mission or goal, right? That's not some people are not going to be cooperative in that whole movement. So how do we handle those individuals who are not interested in cooperating or being a part of Black culture and uniting and supporting each other? Like what do we do? Because everybody's not interested in doing that.
Well, we know two people can't truly walk together except they agree. So, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of people a po- uh to make a positive. I mean, a positive movement. Uh, there are bad apples in every ethnicity. There's bad apples everywhere. But I think values. We have to find people that share the same core values as we do. You know, I don't f with everybody in my race. I mean, it's some niggas. I'm never going to want to be around. I can't stand them. You know, but with me knowing that, it hasn't made me lose a sense of identity within my culture and my race. Just because they're bad apples, doesn't mean we should throw the whole barrel of apples away. So we
So
we just
you got to unite with people who want to unite with you. So Jake,
yeah.
you have to deal with the mothers and the parents who support your mission. And when those people who don't support your mission, you can give them a chance, you can give them the facts, but then you might have to separate, right? Because you can't continue to allow people into your circle who you know are adamantly against.
That don't have, don't does and a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people don't belong in your circle, and it's how you brought up, it's how you raised, what kind of makes you get that mindset. Like, a lot of people sit there and say, well, hey, I made it out, or they got to figure it out themselves. Because and then when you try to help people, it's always, what can I get more out of it? Why
Right.
they can't just take the advice and move forward with it and help themselves? Like they looking for a handout on everything
But you
and stuff like that.
don't change your goal or mission
Right.
because some
Oh,
people
I,
are
I,
not,
I changed it a bunch of times. I had to, you know what?
Right.
And I'm one of the people like, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on my kids and figure it out. They're gonna have to figure it out themselves,
right,
because you try, like, and I'm passionate about sports. That's one thing about it. So like, don't, I don't want to argue with no parents if I feel like I'm helping, invest in your kid with something. Like I say, it
yeah,
don't always have to be money. And I used to be out there giving out stuff, buying stuff for the kids that did not have and stuff like that. So I mean, that's what was more heartbreaking about the stuff. And then the parents, to me, I'm just using this situation. When you
right,
want to help and give back,
yeah.
that you still got to argue back and forth with them. Get threatened and stuff like that. So it makes you put up a shell. Like, man, let me get out of this situation, and I'm just gonna focus on my kids because I know I don't have to deal with all that. I'm just using that scenario and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right,
But everybody else
exactly.
get back different ways. I think y'all talking about one thing. People that actually make it out the hood, that got money, but they don't want to get back to their community. If I was that type of person, I'm talking about if I was balling, had some money, I would get back to my community. I would buy a lot of stuff and put it in New Orleans. I stay in Texas now, and I like how the community is for the kids out here. But I know they don't have that like really in Louisiana. It's kind of
Mm,
behind, so I would want to give back and try to build like community, like build like recreation parks and stuff like that. Where they have all is a big indoor sports facility. If I
yeah.
had money like that, of course I would want to do something like that, but I would want it to be ran right correctly.
I think that these are important conversations. Like, how can we create a culture that I guess encourages Black women to freely, like you freely said, to be what Black men are attracted to, do desire, but Black men are taking more of a leadership role in our community to help, like, shape women or shape these young girls into who
Right.
we want them to, look up to and be, and how to create women who we can model and be like. Because right now you see that there's just a clear divide between what men want and what women want. and how men see Black women and how women see Black men. It's a clear like divide in this space. And I think, and I'm not being biased, I do think that women are more open to actually hearing what men have to say. But I
Not
think
true all the time.
no, not true. But I'm saying in this manosphere space that women are like, okay, what's going on? Like, what do you guys want? We're not. I'm not saying we're changing and we're making the changes. What I'm saying is that we're open to having the conversation. Some of the men,
Okay.
some of the manosphere men are like, this is how we think. We don't give a damn what you think. You are trash and we don't care nothing about what you got to say. Sometimes they just shut you down and instantly before it's even a conversation that can happen or take place, you know.
I think the mature men are not like that because to answer your question, what you just said, women women that sit there and say that, but then when you tell them, they don't take heed to what you're saying. So then it comes out like, damn, she don't even respect what I'm saying. Like she cut me off or something like that. Then she'll listen to you at the time, and guess what? The next day still do the same thing.
Right.
So you feel like, are you listening to me? Because yeah, we just talked about this yesterday. Oh, get out your feelings, get out your feelings. But like to answer one of your questions, you said the one I'm gonna be honest. You know what made me start dating out my race? Because I got tired of dealing with ignorant Black women and stuff like. I got tired of dealing with it and stuff like that. So
Talk about it. Yeah.
it made me start going adventure to different cultures and stuff like that. And you know, dealing with race growing up, you know. I mean, be honest, when you was younger, you just felt like I won't say I grew up in a poor neighborhood, but you feel like the whites had it a little better than you growing up and stuff like that. So it just changes it reprograms your mind. Like you might feel like they better
What
than
kind
you.
of stuff? Okay, so what kind of stuff did you go through specifically that made you say, I don't want to date Black women?
I just dealt with, you know what, too much attitudes, not effort. A lot of attitude without a lot of output. You know what I'm saying? Like you got too much attitude and you're not really bringing nothing to the table, to be honest, but a bunch of attitude. So that was my issue, you know, just to understand it, and it could be from where you was raised up, or how it go back to the parenting. And so I said a long time ago, one parent home, man, you know, man could have been molested, the woman or whatever issue that woman has. Sometimes they grow up with those scars and stuff like that, and it's just hard to get. It's hard to get through them, and you're like,
Hello.
man,
Hold on, JT. I'm sorry. Hello, Brother Clarence. How are you?
how you doing?
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Brother Clarence. I can't hear you. I don't know if I can. There
Hey,
you
how
go.
about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Hey,
can hear you.
how you doing, sister?
How you doing? How you doing? Happy New Year.
Brothers, how y'all doing, brothers?
How
All
you
right.
doing, my brother?
All
I
right.
don't know if you heard what JT was saying, but he was
I
saying
was
some good
listening to him. That's
stuff.
why I punched in because I wanted to ask
Good.
a question
I
when he
want you to
got done.
respond to him.
When he
Good.
got
Let him.
finished.
Yeah. Let JT.
No, I mean, I was about to finish it up, and then if something come back in my head, I'll think about it again. But I just feel like that's what got me fed up. And I mean, I had my bull with me and stuff. I had my insecurities with me, but you know, of course, you don't really look at your stuff. You always looking at what the next person is really doing and stuff. So that's what made me kind of start shying away to dealing with Caucasian women, Spanish, other stuff like that. But then when I'm out with them, my sister's looking at me crazy, like, oh no, he didn't. I don't even know you though. But you know the look. You know the look that the
But
women gave you
but
and
they
stuff
don't
like
know
that.
that you tried with Black women, but they just didn't. It didn't go right. So you
Right, exactly.
went off.
So
So, Brother Clarence, what do you have to say to JT or about this scenario?
Because I heard his question, and we all have been there. So for me to say, oh, we haven't
it's
all been
important.
there, where you just get to the point where you like, man, I tried to get with the light skinned girls, they don't want me. I got to get with the dark skinned girls, they don't want me. Try to get the girls in the middle, they don't want me. Try to get with the big girls don't want me. Skinny girls don't want me. You know, we've all been there, right? And then we sort of thought about it, but then something tells us to come back. But the question I have for JT is, do you think that, did you at any point think that maybe it was the type of Black women you were picking that was the issue, as opposed to just if I just go be with somebody in a different skin color. Because I had this conversation earlier today, so that's why it's on my mind.
You're right, brother Clarence. Absolutely. We talk. Well, I'm dating back in my race, and I'm engaged now to a
Okay.
black woman. So I mean, I
Congratulations,
hope
brother.
the comments not, poor thing. But no, you're right. You're absolutely right. My mindset was different when I was younger and stuff. Like
Right.
I'm 35 now, and I'm meeting a whole different type of black women, successful women, independent, got a better mindset. But you're right, absolutely right. Back then I was younger, so you dealt with I didn't have all my stuff intact, so
Of course.
she didn't have her stuff intact. The women I was just meeting at the time was not on that level yet. So yeah, that's probably what it was, that I was meeting certain people, and it made me still left.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was a good experience for you? I mean, did you learn something from the
Absolutely, it was a
experience?
good experience, and it made me realize, like, even the feeling, like, it was never there. It was always like I won't say lust, but it was like more like I'm just doing this now thing, and I never stayed in a relationship with a woman out my color for a long period of time, because I always found something that I didn't care for neither as well. So, and the crazy thing, they all come with their issues. Everybody got attitude
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Everybody got to come with their bulls. So,
JT, it's important to note that Black men are not more successful in interracial relationships. Like, a lot of people say that, like, oh, I'm leaving a Black woman and I'm gonna get me another race, but the same statistics happen.
I think they do it to prove a point. Like,
Yeah,
I
they
was proving
only
a
do it
point.
to prove a point, but the relationships end the same. They end in the divorce rates
Because
are
our cultures are not really mixing.
But it's not that. But what I'm saying is, if there is something that you need to heal from, going to another race is not going to correct that
I agree.
or fix that, right? It's always going to be something that you need to fix before you go. Even if you are done with Black women and that's it,
right.
Like, I don't want to date them, you still have
right.
to heal and correct whatever it is that you need to heal from in order to be successful in those relationships as well, because that damage will follow you. So I think that a lot of Black men will be like, oh, I can just go and get me this kind of woman. But you can leave that demographic of women with the same type of problems, meaning single motherhood, same challenges that we have and we face. I think that's a common misconception, is that they're more successful when they go outside and date interracially. But I love that you're honest, JT, about your experience with Black women, and you have had women who were difficult and made you feel like, hey, I don't want to date Black women because of this attitude or this behavior that, essentially turned me off.
Right.
So
and I want to say to the people that's listening, like I said back then, you might have some issues with yourself, but you're not looking at your issues. You're looking at the other person's issues. Now I'm old enough to understand that. And if I go back, I wouldn't take it back. I experienced what I experienced. I dealt with what I did, and now and when you go through stuff and experience life, you're supposed to learn from them. And that's all I could sit there and say with those situations.
I think what you just described is what the majority of Black men go through. Some go into other races, some don't. But me, using myself for an example, I've been dating the woman I'm engaged to right now on and off for years, and we've had a rocky road in the past. She was that woman you was talking about, very difficult, very forward, stubborn, stuck in her way. She was scarred too. The scars you was talking about, she was bitter from her, things that happened to her past that she never dealt with, So, but in my younger days with her, the mistakes that I realized that I made was I kept doing too much pointing the finger at her, right? I was pointing the finger at her a lot. I was like, this. I was making excuses on why I was, doing the things I was doing. Yeah, I'm doing what I'm doing because you ain't right. You give me this attitude, that's why I'm cheating. That's why I'm going out and doing this because you ain't right. You ain't doing this. You're not doing that, right? So when I really sat down and thought about it, Black women as a whole have a lack of respect for the Black man. It's I don't know where it got lost at, but to me it's a respect thing. So what I had to come to terms with is I had to start looking at myself, getting my shit together, right? I had to build myself up to where you ain't got no choice but to respect Freezy. You feel what I'm saying? Like so what I had to do was we took a break and I focused on myself. I stopped chasing women. I stopped, worrying about, you know, my appearance, how I looked all the time in front of women, going to clubs, being well known, popular in this atmosphere, that atmosphere. I started doing some soul searching, some spiritual deep diving. So once I started getting these certain answers for myself, answering a lot of questions for myself, reading a lot. What Pet Charles was saying, I was, that was some valuable stuff he was saying. I'm doing this. I'm right there with Pet Charles because I'm doing a lot of research, and this helped me out about why I am the way I am individually, as far as on a macro level with Black people. So I started understanding myself more. I started improving myself economically, right? Improving my social status, right? So when she seen me again, she seen the glow. She seen it. So I set myself up to the point where not just her, but any Black woman, you got to respect me. I'm not, listen, I done put myself through the grinder, right? As a man.
Right.
I'm not going to accept anything less than you supporting me, you being cooperative, you being submissive. You know why I don't accept anything less than that? And I know a lot of Black women have a problem with that S word, submissiveness, but it's a priority for me to have a woman to be submissive to me. Let me tell you why. Because I first had to understand I had to submit to a higher order. Yeah. See, before men expect women to submit, we have to learn to submit to a higher order that's over us, to order and to structure, to a certain type of structure that we must adhere to. So when I did that for myself, I submitted to a certain structure and I adhered to a certain type of order for myself. So once I convoluted that stuff for myself, when I came back into her presence, I was a different man. My conversation was different. She understood. I didn't even argue anymore. That's right. Because I knew my self-worth. So it's like, it was almost like she had no choice. Like, either you're gonna get with the program or you're not. I love you. I got love for you, but I'm not even gonna argue with you because I know who I am now. And I think that's what a lot of Black men are missing. They don't even know who they are. Yeah. They're expecting so much from this Black woman, but they don't even know how to be a leader, how to accept certain responsibilities. They're scared. We got scars too. You feel what I'm saying? We got to deal with our own scars, patch ourselves up, and then we'll know how to ask what we want from the Black woman. Yeah, and
I want Brother Clarence to talk, but I wanted to say a lot of Black women, why they don't like the word submission is because they don't know how to choose partners, right? And they submit to the wrong men. Oftentimes they get in situations that they are used, they are left broken. They have been in situations where men have taken advantage of them and have really mistreated them. And so what you have to do is learn what skills, what characteristics should I look for, right, when I'm selecting a partner? and then those things are the things that you should maybe hone in on, so that you can select the right person, and then you can feel like, okay, I can fully submit in this situation because I've done what I needed to do.
That's very important.
That's very important. But what happens is any man that they're with or sleep with or dealing with, they just submit to them automatically. They get used and abused, and then they say, well, this is why I don't submit, because this is what this man did to me. Well, that's because you cannot submit to every man that you sleep with. You have to first make a decision about the type of man that you're dealing with and interacting with on an intimate level. And secondly, you have to be selective with who you decide to submit to. And that will change the way you interact with men just overall. But a lot of women, they don't even know how to interact with men because they've only saw their mothers dealing with them. And women, they've never even seen their mothers deal with men,
This is the problem I have. This is one of the problems I have with the manosphere. We put so much emphasis on money, economic status, money, whatever. Yes, men should be able to provide. But all of this, making 6 figures, 7 figures, let's be honest. Let's just be honest. A lot of Black men aren't making these numbers, and it's okay.
It's what we're less than 3% of that 10% population. I think less than 10% of us qualify as like high value men, if by the definition of 6-figure salary, et cetera, right? So if 90% of our men, or over 90% of our men, are not high value men by the definition of salary, are we not supposed to respect them? No,
exactly.
We still should have a level of respect for men, right? Because women, we can actually influence a man and make a man help him prosper, help him be a better man. We can encourage your goals, we can support you, and in a lot of ways, right? But let me let Brother Clarence kind of shed some light on the whole idea, because I'd love to hear what you got to say, Brother Clarence. You're muted, honey.
I'm sorry, that whole spiel you said about picking the right man and all that, you just need to just clip that, put that, done. That was perfect. I spent 4 hours trying to say the same thing earlier today. Man, that's beautiful. But one of the other things that we got to see, I had this discussion with a few young brothers earlier today where I said, what is a good woman? See, because what a good woman to Freezy might not be a good woman for JT. A good woman for JT might not be a good woman for both Clarence. See, good woman, that's subjective. And a good woman really is somebody that's going to compliment you. They're going to compliment your strengths and help you develop and strengthen your weaknesses. And you're going to be able to do the same with that person. But more importantly, they're going to be able to listen to you. They're going to be opening to listening to you. Like Sawana said, a lot of women have been hurt. A lot of women I had to have a sister on my platform tell me that, because I used to go in hard on black women, but because I went on hard on everybody. I went in hard on the men and the women, but I used to go in hard on the women too. And she said, brother, a lot of our sisters have had these issues, being touched the wrong way and stuff like that, even by family members and all that. Yeah. And so they're like this because they got stuff that they're dealing with that they haven't ever really dealt with. And I was like, wow. See, we as men, we don't think about that because that's a rare situation for us as men. But for women, it's more prevalent, and we don't think about that. So when we see a woman, she looks like she got her mind together. She looks like she got everything together. But the reason why she won't respect you is because she's had other issues with other men. So my question is, this is a question for you, Tawana, and any of the brothers on the panel.
Yeah.
How do we as men get around that? When we see, like we'll see a good woman, but she got these issues. How do we get around that and try to get her and help her get to the point where, she can get past that so we can have a better relationship?
That's a great question. And let me say this, that I don't know many families who haven't dealt with molestation or, some form of sexual abuse that's happened. And maybe, it was quiet. Maybe people, nobody really suffered consequences for it. But I know that it's happened in my family. Um, and, I had family members as young as 4 years old until she was 11 who was, molested by a family member. And then, there's many other stories that's happened, right? And so we often forget how unprotected the Black woman is, right? We are over sexualized in every media source. So when men see us, they automatically feel like they can just touch us or, take initiative to do things with us because we are like overly sexualized in all these different spaces. And so I've seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced it, right? Just being in a bar, maybe I had on a dress that was too short and men feeling like they can touch me in certain areas, right?
Yeah.
Or do things to me. And I've experienced that. It's things that, go unreported. It's not like I go and report these men or that they've been prosecuted or anything. It's just something that's happened to me. And I know, and I feel like unprotected in some spaces because of it. So yes, that's happened. And what I will say to you is that the only way that you can really help a woman who's been through that type of trauma is by telling her to seek professional help.
Okay. So
us as I know we try to help people heal from their trauma, but what people try to do is fill emotional voids, right? And so something in you reminds her of that thing that she's been traumatized by for years and years and years. Maybe it's safety, maybe it's something she's trying to avoid. And she tries to use you as an emotional void, and you'll always be in a position of trying to overcompensate for her because she's never going to be fulfilled with what you can offer. So you cannot do anything to help heal her besides make sure she gets the professional help that she needs. And once she gets that help, then you can also support that, right? Then you can be supported, but you can't. But we can't ignore the fact that initial step of getting the professional help is necessary for a lot of Black women. Especially if you know that they have a history of trauma, of abuse, sexual abuse of any kind. That's important, especially if you know that they haven't ever been in a space where they have been able to get help or heal from that. That is a journey that needs to happen immediately. And so
They got to know how to
acknowledge
it as well too, because like we don't know all that, and sometimes like you.
What happened, JT? JT. Oh, okay, go ahead. Whoever else.
I just want let me just finish up on what I was follow up a question. So you saying to get help for try to put her in a position where she's gonna get help, and I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Here's a major problem that we run into as men, Sister Tawana. But we don't realize that there's something going on, because the average one's not going to say, hey, this happened to me when I was young. This happened to me a few years ago. This is why I haven't had sex in 5 years or whatever. They're not going to tell you that stuff up front, right? So we just see this odd behavior. And so before we can actually get involved enough to even be concerned enough to try to direct them to get some help, we see this odd behavior and we just say, that's it.
We just cut it off, right?
Yeah.
Cut it off,
and because we're like, man, we're not thinking about it like, man, maybe relationship wise now ain't the time. But this is still my sister. I can offer her some help. I can try to get her some help. Maybe there's some issue going on. Now, I will say this about your homegirls. When you say something to your homegirls like, hey, have you ever thought about professional help? Professional help? Right? Sometimes your homegirls.
Well, therapy is forbidden in our communities a lot of times, right? People don't want to accept professional help. So you're right. That you have to be willing. The woman who you're trying to be with, if you don't know exactly what is going on with her, but you see that there is something that's not connecting, right? You're like, what is going on? She's cool sometimes, but sometimes she blows up and she's so, I don't know how to help her. I think immediately, disconnect and protect your energy, because I don't think that you should stay in a negative, abusive or a situation where the woman is, I guess, toxic to you, right? Or I don't believe a man should. But what I will say is that a man, that if you have a woman that exhibits that type of behavior and you suggest that they get help and they are open to it, that's a woman you can work with.
Right. Agreed.
That's a woman you can work with. Because if I'm talking to a man that I care about and he says, babe, you're good, but you have a side of you that I see is unlike who you are at the core, right? I'm open to what he's saying to me, and I'm wanting to be better, and I'm gonna pursue something to make sure I get better. But if the woman's not open, you can't. What can you even do? You have to be open to the idea that there is an issue that you need to heal from.
Right.
And a lot, if they're not, and I tell brothers, if they're not in a place for healing, that's a dangerous, space for you to stay in, because that woman is not open to constructive criticism. She's not going to be agreeable, right? She's going to give you all the things that y'all hate about Black women. She's definitely going to reinforce that, because she's not really in a space where she believes that anything is wrong with her. Not even that it's something wrong, because that just because you've had trauma doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. What happens is you're not able to process emotions and feelings normally because of things that you went through. People don't understand that. So they get overly emotional about things that really you could respond. You wouldn't even respond to that level of emotion if you were healed. I think that's what women miss. They always think, like, you think something wrong? You think I'm crazy?
Right.
You trying to say
I think in today's society, getting the bag is pushed, securing the bag, the way we look, our social status and stuff. A lot of women and men are pretty much afraid to even reveal a lot of these dark things in their closet because of the fear of the fear of their image and how they're gonna look. If I told you some of the things I have in my closet, you might think I'm crazy as hell. You feel what I'm saying? I can't tell everybody this shit. I can't tell everybody this shit.
No, you cannot. You cannot.
So sorry for that interruption. I had a call come through. You forget to put my phone on do not disturb.
You good.
So when we get into this type of situation, a lot of people, I feel like, don't even make it to that point in the relationship where the person can even trust the other person with this type of information.
That's what I was saying,
because then you don't know if they're gonna use it or not against you.
Exactly.
What? Let me tell you what you have to do. And I'm going to tell y'all this, and I know people are not gonna like it. You have to get to a space where you don't give a damn what people think about what you're going through. Like, you have to really sit in that space. Like, I am depressed. This is what I've been through, and I don't tell your story before they tell your story, right?
Okay.
Like
I,
I am depressed. Yeah, I'm depressed.
that's
Hey,
good to do
before they go,
sometimes.
digging,
before
and
they
getting
before they
information
make
on
it a viral sensation, right? I
Tawana,
am.
that's
Let
good to
me tell
use.
my story,
Right.
right? Because
Mm.
I am not ashamed of what I went through, because what happens in our culture specifically, we hide a lot of trauma, abuse,
Yes.
and patterns that we need to disrupt.
Right.
Right.
Things that we need to disrupt and we need to dismantle, and we hide it, and it's ingrained in our culture, like, oh, mind your business, and don't,
Yeah.
snitches get stitches, and oh,
Yeah.
what happens in our household stays in our household.
Right.
All of this cycles of abuse and all this stuff, and so we go through all this stuff, and many households are experiencing it, but we can't talk about it because we've been ingrained, we've been taught to keep things private.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're ashamed of mental health issues. We're ashamed of sexual abuse that's happened to us. We're ashamed of a lot of the trauma we go through. And we should not be, because so many of us connect with it. So many of us have had those things happen to us in our lives. So until we began to be honest with ourselves about the things that's happening, we're never going to be able to heal. You're never going to get to a place with some women, obviously there's many of us, many women who have healed, who is ready for love, who's open, who love Black men, right? Who get overlooked all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's
Yeah.
the ones that's like that y'all focus on, because those are maybe aesthetically the people y'all desire, right?
Can I tell you how that
Not
happens?
desire, just go ahead.
That happens because of the sexual tension that those women are able to promote. When they keep their sexual tension so high that the average man will overlook obvious red flags and just continue on in the relationship,
Right.
right? And then they get they get winged on the sexual tension, and so then they don't want to be in a space where they're not having that sexual tension that high anymore, right? So they do anything to to leave that woman alone. I'm not going to disturb her at all by telling her maybe she got an issue with this, or issue here, issue there. I'm not going to disturb her so she can keep that sexual tension. Now the relationship goes on, maybe even into a marriage, and then it gets to a point where it's undeniable. The issue becomes undeniable because it's interfering with the daily operation of the marriage or of the relationship or whatever,
But it's been there in the
and it
They
past.
has to
call
be
they
dealt with.
call it they call it trauma bonding, right?
Trauma bonding, okay,
Trauma
trauma bonding,
bonding.
but
Two broken people bonding over. It don't have to be the same trauma. It's different things that you both experience. You both feeling emotional voids with each other.
well,
Not
Right.
with the
even
men, with the
So
men,
that's a good thing or that's a bad thing?
no, it's bad. It's really
it's
trauma
bad.
bonding is bad. It's temporary, right? Because
I don't know. I disagree with that because like you can like depending on that person, where that person that is in his life, you go through some hardship and she been through some hardship. If y'all could help each other get through it together, that's a strong bond itself, right there.
That's
And I
not
yeah,
what she's
mean,
talking
that's
about, bro.
yeah, I
That's not
know.
what she's
what she's
talking
talking
about.
about.
She's talking about two people that are hurt, and what they're doing is using each other for a crutch. They're
Right.
not sitting down and actually wrapping the hurt limb and actually helping the hurt limb to reconnect and get better. What they're doing is being crutches for each other.
That's
You
right.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's a
You
difference between
I
But
both of
understand.
them.
Listen, I
they're
understand.
not helping each other get better, JT.
Right,
Right.
They're
exactly.
I
keeping each
understand
other
that
in
part,
that
but I
space.
mean,
Exactly.
I'm looking at it like, hey, it's people that been through situations like that are actually stronger in relationships now. That don't happen all the time.
Right.
What you call it trauma bonding? Yes, sometimes when you can't get through it because y'all never faced that thing that got you in that situation, like Freezy was saying, you don't never want to pour or be vulnerable enough to tell her what what happened to you that's holding something that you have struggled with or vice versa. Y'all never get to that point. But then sometimes they have relationships. Like I know for myself, you have relationships where they were started out as a trauma bonding, but then it got to a point where, hey, we working through this, we getting this together, we went got help, and
Yeah.
now they have a different type of bond for each other.
Yeah, but you know, one person may be willing to, maybe one person has healed, right, and has grown. But you have to think about it, and Miss Creative have a good point. If both of you are broken, right, you both have trauma, you both haven't healed, you can't help each other get to a like.
I disagree with that though. I disagree with that.
I think
Man,
right. I
can I
understand. I
say
mean,
one
there's
thing?
always exceptions, but go ahead, Brother
Can I,
Clarence.
can I say one? I gotta go, guys. But it's a wonderful conversation, and you should have a part 2 so I can come back.
Oh no,
Sister
we definitely gonna have a part 2, and I want to tell everybody because I'm gonna invite you back, Brother Clarence.
Okay, please,
Because
please,
we
please.
want to talk about some more solutions about creating culture and how we can shift the narrative about Black men and Black women. You know,
I would love to participate in
but
something like that.
yes. But go ahead, Clarence. Give us your
Yeah, because my granddaughter's gonna be mad at me if I don't show up in a little while. So I got to get out of here, y'all. All right,
yes.
hey, see y'all. Thank you, sis, for having me on.
Thank
Hey,
you, Brother
peace
Clarence,
to the brotherhood. See y'all. Peace to the chat.
Thank
See y'all.
you. Yes, and we're gonna wrap up in a minute, you guys. But I do want to give you guys a chance to kind of talk about some of your final thoughts because I've been on for 3 hours.
And I'm
Freezy,
to
I
answer.
gotta have you back, Freezy, because you know, like
Most definitely.
I'm live on Sundays as well. Sundays is a little bit more fun. You know, Thursdays
Okay.
I'm gonna try to get into some deeper issues, but Sundays is, you know, my fun. Like, hey, I'm gonna talk about relationships and you know whatever. So
Okay.
Sundays
Is your information in the description, like your Instagram and all that kind of stuff?
Instagram, my Twitter.
Okay.
I don't have my Facebook because I use my real name on Facebook. I haven't created a Facebook page yet, but everything else, everything is Wana Chika. Now IG is Wana_Chika, but
Okay.
you know everything else is Wana Chika. You'll be able to find me.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can communicate like that then. We can,
Yes, go ahead and request my friend, and then I'll let you know and send you the links and stuff.
Cool.
Cool. JT. So JT, you know, me and him, we were panelists on the same show for a long time. So, you know, JT always come with some fire and he shake it up. You know, we gotta have JT back because, you know, obviously the girls love JT. I gotta go back to the comments. JT was, you know, everybody was saying
Now, somebody said po JT, something like that. I sound confused.
She was connecting with you, Sam.
Right.
Like, oh, I can't.
Jay.
Like that.
Yo.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Were you saying this? If two people who are broken, right, are together,
right?
Are you saying that the shame is out the picture? Like both people have dark past or disturbing past or things that have sent them on a lost path or whatever. Both the shame is out the picture. Are you saying that the shame is out the picture so it makes them more likely to share certain things with each other and grow together? Are you saying that? Or
yeah, what I was saying, like, I'm always like, I feel like if you say two underdogs in that situation because they both went through something, and like I look at it like, hey, if they can get through those trials, those errors, because there's gonna be errors, there's gonna be stuff there. That's when I was with Miss Creator. I disagree with her with two broken people because you asking me the same question. I feel like if you could get through those things together, them bump and bruises, and then you acknowledge, hey, this happened, y'all had those moments, and then y'all build from that. I think that could be a powerful couple. You know, when you got to go through the reconstruction, you got to go seek help. You might got to go talk to counselors. You might got to go, talk to get help together to get through y'all situation. Sometimes that happen, but a lot of times that don't happen because they never get to the point where they're, like you said earlier, I'm comfortable even telling you what happened to me. I don't even trust you. Are you gonna use it for the good or are you gonna use it for the bad?
Yeah.
And to answer what.
Well, also, let me say this, JT. Also, when you have a lot of trauma, it's hard for you to trust people because because of your history of being abused or being, whatever happened in your past, it's always going to be difficult for you to trust people, even if that person is somebody you can trust or you should trust. And so that's also what makes it problematic and hard to build relationships when you have trauma, is what we're trying to say. But I understand where you're coming from.
To answer, Coach, I mean not Coach, what's his name was that just left?
Brother Clarence.
Brother Clarence. He asked me a question, and I don't think I knew the answer at the time. I think I know the answer now. Reason why I think I always had some bad relationships with women. Like I had different type of relationship, but when I just had to try to get in a relationship with a woman, I think I always was a person like if I got I got scar tissue. I've been through some things, you know. I feel like I'm not that better, so who am I? I should be able to deal with a person that been through some scar tissue. That's why I'm big on like I feel like you can win in that situation if you're willing to open up to each other.
Right. Don't discount them that they can be. It can
right.
be.
You can't close the door if I'm trying to help you.
Right.
And that happens a lot with like you said. I think you said it earlier too, Tawana. Women like that man might have been a leader in their life that molested them, that touched them, that that gave them the run around, messed over on them, and they looked at that man, gave that man their respect, but then he took it from them. So guess what? When you show a glimpse of that, they're gonna be like, hold on now,
That's
and
right.
you may be right. And their feelings might convert back to where they were in their past. And now they giving you a hard time, but you saying in your mind, I'm just really trying to help you out because I care for you. I want to be there for you. So now your feelings are getting more hurt because it's feelings that you have for this person, but you can see this person closing the door on them. So I think that happens a lot in relationships as well. I mean, and vice versa. Men do the same thing to women as well. So I can't sit there and say that.
I love that.
I think what helped me out and what helped my fiance out, I told her and I also told myself, we got to stop putting so much faith in people, because we want our significant other or our friends to have the answer. Even therapists, they don't. You might not run across the right therapist right then and there. You know what I'm saying? Everybody ain't got the answer. But where I found a solid foundation is through my faith. There was more progress that was made when I trusted in, and I know it's cliche and it sounds churchy, but when I started putting my trust more so in the Most High, and I started reading a lot and studying a lot and started doing a lot of intervention within myself, I stopped, because I used to get disappointed with her because, she didn't act a certain way. She wasn't meeting my needs at a certain time. I got frustrated. My patience ran thin.
Right.
So when I started doing a lot of internal searching within myself and increasing my faith and doing a lot of studying, I increased my patience as well. And I think that's where we go south in relationships a lot. We don't have a lot of patience with each other. We don't have a lot of patience with each other. It's like back in the day when I was dealing with her, she used, if I say something and she used to just, if she just look at me wrong as a response, like give me a sour face, my patience run thin. I was like, who you looking at like that? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I got you.
Yeah, it's like, but now that's because I was emotionally unstable. I used to try to put it off on her, but it was me. You know what I'm saying? So what I had to learn how to do was stop putting so much faith in her. And I learned that going into a marriage, we can't look for the other person to make us happy. It's gonna fail. It's gonna fail. I gotta come with a certain type of stability as far as my happiness. She has to come to the table with a certain type of stability and foundation as far as her happiness, and we have to put that together. My happiness can't depend on her. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
You're 100% right. I call them humans. I say humans, because what I try to get people to understand is that humans are emotional. We go through mental health instability. We go through changes, we adjust, we have trauma, we have all these things that we bring into relationships that makes us human,
Right.
And I always jokingly say, like, I hate humans. I can't deal with humans, right? Because humans, they make mistakes, right? We don't know how to address everybody's trauma. We don't know how to deal with all the hurt and pain and history. And I think that what happens with Black men and women, we expect each other to understand each other's struggle. So we come into it like, if anybody, you need to understand, and then the woman is like, no, but you need to understand this. So we button heads because we just automatically assuming that we understand each other's struggle when it's not like that. We are totally different people. I went through so much stuff that you may not even think about, right? That you need to understand me and relearn me and understand, how to deal with me and process. But a lot of people don't want to go through that. They just feel like that's too much work. It's too much trauma. I just want to get away from it.
Yeah.
And so that's why, that's why you get the divide, and why some men just say, like, I'd rather just step out. At least I don't got to deal with that challenge of history and racism and all that stuff that Black women come with. It's beyond just like she got an attitude. It's more so like all of the challenges that you have as a result of it, right? Like we both shut out of institutions. We both experience certain racism. And Black women are treated a certain way that can emasculate men, and men have no really control over how we're treated. So it's a lot of issues that come with it. So we got to get
another thing we have to start getting good at is communication.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but
no, it's not simple.
What I've learned is a lot of people aren't good at communication. Communication is key.
Yes.
And I had to learn that. So once we can learn how to communicate with each other, not just verbally, but also body language too.
Physically
just
too,
pay attention.
Freezy, when you come back, you need to give the people tips on communication. Because I think that we tell people that, like, communication, but people may think they communicating when they yelling and acting stupid. And
right.
Right. I may think I'm communicating when I'm talking to my man, like, and like that. And I told him how I feel, but maybe it's your delivery and it's the way you communicate.
You said your own answer though, Tawana, is your delivery, because
yeah,
he's not gonna take what you're saying, even though it was maybe some truth to what you were saying. He's looking at how you said it. So that's gonna stop that there.
We need to teach people, how do you address people? How can you? Because I think people don't understand that, because they've seen in their life people interact in an ignorant, aggressive, combative, disrespectful way, and they have normalized it. That's how we are. That's
the worst
how people are. No, that's not how Black people are. That's how your family was.
Let me tell you something.
I'm guilty of that though.
Person. Go ahead, JT. I'm sorry.
JT said
I come from a family like that. How we communicate with aggression. I used to see my uncles start arguing and then they wind up fighting and getting crazy from that. But that's mostly how my family is. So sometimes people used to always say, "You so confrontational." I'm not a confrontational person. I felt like I wasn't, but to them, they felt like I was being mad, aggressive, or I'm talking to you with a demeanor, like I'm looking at you, but I'm talking to you, saying what's on my mind.
Right.
But to them, it's coming off mad, aggressive, and stuff like that. So I had to learn. I'm still learning that. I'm 35 years old. I had to learn the challenge that everything don't have to come with that same kind of energy level. You got to sit down, you got to listen, not quick to respond on something.
You're doing the work, JT. We could tell, even because you're still being honest and authentic with your experience, and people can't discount that, because you went through that with Black women and your experience. But we can see that you're at least trying to do things differently and move forward.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want people to know. How can they move from the way they currently communicate with their partner that's getting them nowhere, that's getting them baby mamas and not wives, right? Because that's what they want to be, wives, but they continue
Right.
to be impregnated, and the men just leave them and abandon them, and they don't understand why he moved on and married another woman, right? Or he moved on and he's
Well,
not
Freezy said that communication is key. I
communication.
mean,
And a lot of
big
women
key.
want to get from that place. They want to become wives, and they want to have a mentality of that, or even think about if they can become wives, right? Like, what do I need to do? And if I do want that, because I may not even
Right.
want that after I
And
figure
I
out
want to
everything.
say one thing
Go
too.
ahead.
You're also communicating poorly when you give your significant other the silent treatment as well. That's a type of negative
So right.
communication too. Just
Yes.
because you're not saying anything doesn't mean you're not communicating. It's called being passive aggressive. Y'all don't been passive aggressive before. So, and to me that's the worst person to deal with. A passive aggressive person, it'll make you go crazy. So
Good
I agree. Look, I
good
agree
night,
with you
Jayla.
on that, Freezy. Like, cause my girl, she used to do that with me, and I'm like, you listen to, see, she be like, you always saying something that I don't listen. So when I'm quiet, now you saying something. I'm like, yeah, but you're not really saying that. Are you really listening
right,
to me? Like, what's your purpose of doing this? Like, and then the argument constantly going, and stuff like that. Cause like now I feel like you just doing that to prove a point. You're not doing it
exactly.
because
Right.
to to better the situation. Because I did acknowledge it. Now I'm just going to ignore you now. That's not that's what we got to. That's not to understand. I was trying to get in that, by telling you that I want you to listen to me, and then you can respond
Yeah,
and stuff like that, and then vice versa. But if we both arguing at the same time, that how that go. We're not getting nowhere.
That's
You
right.
talking and you trying to out talk me, then I'm raising my voice and stuff like that. Then you asking me who you yelling at. So it's just been those type of situations at times before though. I
and
don't know.
another
Understand?
thing, if
Go
the
ahead.
best times you have in your relationship is when you have sex, those are bad signs too. If those are
Oh yeah.
if those are your best times in your relationship, it's a red flag. I can tell you that
Red.
right
For
now.
real.
Look,
Look.
I gotta get. First of all, I'm gonna have me a red flag for our next episode, because that is the most important. Like,
Yes.
I can't wait till we have the secondary conversation. And I'm gonna come back on Thursday, you guys. So next Thursday, same time, I'm gonna go live.
Okay,
We're going to talk about these things in more depth, and maybe we can focus on communication and how communication can change, how the message is delivered, and how we can
that's awesome.
improve on our communication. Because a lot of people, they don't know what to do. They just know what y'all saying, but they don't know what that means. So we got to give examples. I'm gonna have to curse one of y'all out so y'all can kind of tell me how I'm supposed to respond. So we're gonna show them exactly what it is. So thank you, Freezy. Thank you,
Awesome.
JT. I love you
Appreciate it.
guys. Y'all,
Nice meeting you,
JT,
Freezy.
you already know how I feel about you. So we gonna come back, and I know how to get you, JT. Freezy, make sure you reach out.
Got you.
Get your information, okay? Thank
Got you.
you, Gems and Jewels. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Welcome if you are new to my channel. Please subscribe for more content. Thank you guys so much, Miss Creative, Evolutionary Playboy,
Oh
G.
yeah, shout out to Playboy.
Yes,
He gave us a
shout out
shout
to
out.
Playboy. I
Shout out
love
to Playboy.
that. Thank you guys, and see you later. All righty. Take care.
All right.
I know.
All right, Freezy. All
All
right,
right,
John.
Jay.
All right.